Okay, I think we're here now. So welcome everyone to the board meeting for June 2024. Good to see you all here. We'll start with apologies for today, and I've had apologies intimated from June Brown, and June Barnard is here representing her, and also an apology from Mark Burrell this morning. Before we move on, can I ask if any of the members of the board have any declarations of interest today, please? No declarations of interest, thank you. Okay, now I'll move on to my formal welcome to you all. And it's great to see everybody, as I said, at this meeting of the board, which is our third meeting of 2024. Yet again, we have a really busy agenda today. And as usual, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the guest speakers we have presenting papers here today, as well as members of the public, the media and elected representatives who are joining us today. I would also like in particular, though, to welcome our two new non-executive board members, Colette Backwell and Richie Johnson, who have just joined this week. This is their very first week in their new roles. I'm sure that Colette's mix of extensive private and third sector experience and Rich's former Aberdeenshire Council role and his financial acumen will be valuable additions to our board over the months and years ahead. So a particular welcome to both of them. I would also like to welcome agenda item 10, which is about health equity and the updates which highlight the work undertaken to deliver our 23-24 action plan. There's a new 5-year look ahead at how it's proposed we build on this work to reach beyond responding to poor health and investing in preventing harm and improving health moving forward, an ambition which is clearly enshrined in our plan for the future. I believe that there are some conclusions, such as ongoing resource constraints and the need for long-term commitment from everyone, which we will need to pay particular attention to as a board as we move forward. I will also draw attention to item 11 on the agenda, which is NHS Grampian's new Putting People First approach. This paper outlines the ambition we have to shape a new relationship with the public that will, over time, improve the health of the people of Grampian through their greater involvement in improving services and developing sustainable models of care. I hope that this work will mark a step change in how NHS Grampian involves the public. Finally, I would like to extend my thanks to everyone who supported Grampian Pride on the 25th of May. I joined dozens of NHS Grampian staff among the many thousands of people taking part in this colourful parade through the city centre. I was heartened to see how the whole event has grown year on year, with this being the biggest yet, and to experience a sense of community that really was so evident that day. The sunshine, of course, was also welcome and enhanced the rainbow of colours on the display. NHS Grampian's participation in the event not only reflects our role within the communities we serve, but I believe sends a really strong message of reassurance to our staff that we really do want them to work in an environment free from prejudice or discrimination. It also shows prospective employees that NHS Grampian treats its staff fairly and equitably, and that we all stand behind this. So it's a really important event for us all. Thank you. Moving on to the agenda, the first item on our agenda today is the minutes of the meeting of the 11th of April 24. Can I ask if we can approve those minutes, please?
Agreed.
Ian, thank you. Ian.
Thanks, Alison. There's a major error at point 2 on page number 4 of the pack, the declarations of interest. My name is spelled Y-U-I-L-L and not Y-U-L-E. I appreciate it's not the most important issue in the world, but it matters to me.
It is a very important issue, and I really apologise that no one's picked
Don't
up
apologise. It happens all the time.
Oh, but I do apologise because that should
happen. No, not needed.
Thank you, Ian, for that. With that amendment, can we approve the minutes, please? I've heard yes from somebody. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Any matters arising from those minutes that's not on the agenda elsewhere today? No? Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the Chief Executive's report. Adam, please.
Thanks, Alison, and good morning to everyone. Just two things that I wanted to bring to the attention of the board this meeting. The first one about our route to net zero, and it was really important to bring this to the whole board on the back of a conversation we had at PAFIC. So this is just to keep people absolutely abreast with what we're doing. Two key things to talk about. It's one bit of work, but in two sections. And this is how we look at our buildings, for the future over, I guess, something like a 30-year period. And then the second bit, how we look at those over a much shorter period of time. That work's underway. Timescales in the paper. So next year and then the year after for the short and then the longer term bit of work. And that will absolutely help us then be able to create the really cohesive plan that falls out of our climate emergency and sustainability strategy that we signed off as a board last year. So that was the first one. And then the second one was just to, again, build on one of the board committees and absolutely the importance of unscheduled care to all of us. And just to talk really about remembering that unscheduled care is a whole pathway, and really important we remember that all the time, and any bits that get stuck are dependent invariably on the whole pathway working well. And in making that happen, there's some bits that June Bernard's had a huge amount of work in this, getting some work with the ambulance service, Scottish Ambulance Service. So we do lots and lots of work with them. We do enormous collaboration and cohesion with them to try and improve the ambulance queuing at ED and EMEA, which we know is absolutely not where we want it to be. So it's just to mention that. And then the second part was just to talk about the report very briefly from the Centre for Sustainable Delivery. So this is a government group, the CFSD, who support all boards in trying to do best practice that we understand from, drawn from other places and drawn from within Scotland. And our report on unscheduled care basically said we do a really decent job with what we've got, and they've said there's a few areas we can think about trying to make some improvements in efficiency. So obviously we're looking at those. I've mentioned just one of them around those slightly longer staying patients. As I've said in the report, obviously we actually land really pretty well on that. But the bit to remember, I think that's really important, that perhaps didn't emphasise well enough in the report, is however, because we have that much lower bed base, we've got to be even better than we are. So again, it's absolutely a key area for us to work away at. So it's just those couple of things, Alison. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adam. Have we got any questions or comments for Adam there? Dennis, first of all, please. Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Adam. And it's really just to I suppose state and emphasise that when we're talking about unscheduled care, we're not just talking ARI at Aberdeen, we're also referring to Dr. Gray's, and that pathway is obviously relevant to Dr. Gray's as well. And it was really just to highlight that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for that. Ian, please.
Thanks, Alison. I had a couple of questions about the rapid release of ambulances. Just wondered if Adam could maybe expand a wee bit on how that's being achieved. And second question is, given the considerable publicity around queues of ambulances at ARI over recent months, do we need to undertake any work to sort of reassure people that the ambulance services is there, that's there for them? And I don't use the term fit for purpose, because it's not the ambulance service that's the issue, it's the receiving of the. I hope that made sense.
Thanks, Ian. He puts that really important points there as well. So I'll pass directly to Adam, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Alison. Thanks. Ian. Two really key issues. If I take the second bit first, I think part of the discussion we had at the Clinical Governance Committee about unscheduled care, the median ambulance turnaround time is absolutely standard in Grampian. We're very much the same as other parts of Scotland. The bit that we're really struggling with is ambulances that then start to queue for a much longer time within the data set. So that largely relates to what I was saying in the report around the whole system of the whole flow of patients through an unscheduled care system, and you know, our very high occupancy against our small bed base, all those things that we know about as a board. So that's the bit of work that we're really trying to do, is make sure that longer tail is brought right in, and the policies are trying to make sure we can do that rapidly where we need to. So if someone becomes unwell, that they can get access very quickly. And then we've got a really cohesive plan that works, and there's not a quick fix for the, you know, it's really important to understand there just isn't a quick fix for this. So the plan works over a number of months that will improve the flow through the system at multiple points, and that will, we absolutely know, will help to reduce the ambulance queuing. That's a plan we're working on with Scottish Ambulance. We sit, as I was saying, we sit with Scottish Ambulance Service multiple times a week to both work on immediate issues, but also to work on that combined planning for us to, you know, improve the situation, so that, as you say, Ian, ambulances are available as people need them, and that's the key bit of work that we have to achieve together. And if it's okay, Alison, I'll just check with June if there's anything further to say on that I've not picked up there, if that was all right. June, anything to add to that?
I'll just pick up a little bit on the joint escalation framework. So it was written between acute colleagues and our SAS colleagues. It gives us a clear oversight of the escalation points and the triggers that are available to us, so each of us knows what others are doing. And it also gives us a consistent approach to how we communicate and how we respond in terms of having standard operating procedures, specifically in relation to the identification of the deteriorating patient, and or indeed when there are life-threatening calls which need to be responded to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, June. Ian, would you like to come back?
Yeah, I had the second part of my question, which I didn't express terribly well, which was in terms of any need to communicate with the public the robustness of the service, if that's the right word, given the recent publicity, you know, fair or otherwise.
Yeah. Adam,
Yeah,
do you want to respond?
I'll come in. Yeah, absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
Stuart,
Sorry, thanks, Ian. Sorry if I didn't pick that first time. So I think that's a really, really good suggestion, and it can be something that I pick up with Michael Dixon, the Chief Executive of Scottish Ambulance, and with June and everyone that works with all their colleagues across both organisations, to think how we get useful joint messaging on exactly that issue about people's access to ambulance provision. And as I say, lots of it works really, really well lots of the time, and we have these issues that definitely happen and we need to get done. So I'll collectively, we'll pick that up with Scottish Ambulance and see how we might do that most helpfully. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Adam. Hussein.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone. It's really just on the back of Ian's point, and I thought just a suggestion, perhaps, Adam, in your conversations with Mike and others, and it really came from the How Are We Doing report, which I know we'll come into in a moment, and that is that often user testimonies shout the loudest, because people can relate to other people's experiences. So where people are having a good service, and where that service, that excellent service is being reported back to us, that is potentially a gold mine that you could use in your marketing, because it means that the people of Grampian are relating directly to other people in Grampian in terms of the service that they're receiving, in addition to, you know, the messaging that you're putting out that the ambulance service is there for them. So it's just a thought to really try and stretch that one little bit further.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hussein. That's helpful. Any other comments? No, I think it's really important to stress the amount of work that's being done by June, by Adam, by others across the teams as well, to actually address what's an issue here that needs addressing, and the work being done in partnership to do that, I think, is really, really important. The emphasis being put on it, and the support being given to those people involved as well. I think that's a really key point within this. So thank you for the questions and the answers on that as well. Okay, I can't say anything on that, so thank you very much. We'll note that report and move on to item 6, the How Are We Doing performance report. Alex, you.
Yep. Thanks, Chair. I'm not going to say a lot in terms of the introduction. We've got the Q4 information before you. As Hussein mentioned, there's some qualitative and quantitative information in that, and I know my colleagues and myself are happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that then. So I'll hand it over to board members then. Any questions or comments about the How Are We Doing report? Thank you. And Sandy, please.
Just a couple of points. Thanks, Alison. I think Adam mentioned PAFIC last week, and just for the sake of Colette and Richie, that's the Performance Assurance Finance and Infrastructure Committee. And that allows us the space to have a deep dive to look at kind of overview, have an overview of performance and progress and how risks are being mitigated. And we had a really detailed, very good meeting last week. You are very welcome to come along and sit in and get a sense of the discussion that's taking place, because I think it does give a lot of assurance on some of the detail around our services and performance. And that's perhaps why some of us that sit on that committee may not have many questions today, because we did address a lot of issues last week. Overall, I think last week, I think it's fair to say, Alison and Joyce and others that were there, I think we did get a lot of assurance on the detail of what's been progressed under very, very difficult and challenging circumstances. And we did feel that staff were addressing risk as well as could be under the circumstances. I suppose the only slight comment I had last week, and just to mention it today, just so that it is picked up, and that was the huge pressures in certain parts of the system in terms of the recruitment of staff and how that's affecting not only staff but also services in relation to the public. And we noticed that the vacancy control system is actually delaying the recruitment of those staff. So I think the plea that I was making last week at committee was that if there are some controls put in place, that they don't have an unintended consequence on other issues that need to be progressed, to try to take pressure off the system where it's already very overheated. So I'm sure that will be picked up, that there may need to be a very focused solution for certain staff groups that we need to address very quickly, where staff are under enormous pressure and many patients are waiting for services. Thanks, Alison.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you for putting the work of PAFIC into the highlight as well, and emphasising that context of this report too. That's very helpful. But I will turn to Tom to comment on that specific issue that you raised. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Alison, and thanks, Sandy. So I guess this relates to the time to hire and the fact that we've seen a deterioration or an increase in that time in Q4 after actually some pretty strong performance on that in reducing it well below the national standard time for hire over the first 3 quarters of the year. And I guess I would just highlight that it still remains within that national level. Just on the subject of vacancy controls and whether I guess the performance links to that or whether it's something else. In the vast majority of cases, posts coming forward to vacancy control are approved at a SIFT panel, and where they are identified as being one of a number of categories which we've defined as immediate need. So that's, a direct replacement for clinical care posts where there's identified funding, direct replacement of support services that have a direct impact on clinical care, and also other sort of non-clinical roles that support our protected and critical activities, that support business continuity, as well as actually some of the roles we know we need to support the shift to prevention. And so the vast majority of roles go through that process, and there's probably about a 1 week window within which that might have added. So 5 days might have been added rather than weeks. we do currently see all posts at band 8 and above, and just having a think about whether we can actually alter the balance of that a bit so that we aren't seeing so many at scrutiny panel. In the main, that would tend to add one more week to the average. What does become an issue is if there isn't a full provision of information around the post to enable the panel to make an objective decision that kind of holds that, we'll come on to it later, I'm sure, the sort of finding balance between financial, clinical, staff governance and prevention, and doesn't enable the panel to make an objective decision on that basis. And that's about 25% of posts that come through to that. So we are communicating with hiring managers the importance of providing that information at the outset. What we're not clear on is whether this quarter is if you like, an outlier, or whether it's reflective of a potential reversion of trend. So we're going to include this KPI in 24-25 so that we can keep an eye on it at a board level and through PAFIC as well. And one of the things we have identified is that within the job train recruitment system, there may be a reporting issue, which when you have a vacancy that has a number of roles available, if not all roles are filled at the outset, then that will continue to show as a vacant post and not filled, even if actually 4 or 5 posts are filled, which could be impacting on the average. So there's work going on with the national job train team on that through the recruitment team, and I would hope we'll be seeing things back towards the kind of levels that we've seen in the first 3 quarters of the 23-24 performance year in the first quarter of 24-25. So just hopefully that provides some assurance that we are aware of it and on it, but we don't think that vacancy control is the main driver of that change. So we need to understand a bit more about what is behind it.
Thank you, Tom. Sandy, does that give you reassurance?
I think that was very helpful. I think it's a good example of the system working properly to make sure that the proper checks, balances, safeguards, filters, etc. in place. So thanks for that, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy.
No
Thank you. I'll turn to Hussein now, please. Hussein.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to take you, if I may, firstly, can I thank you for the report as always. It's very clear, and I think our format has only grown better over time. I'd like to take you to the section on care opinion, if I may, and 2 questions. One is more of a narrative, and the other is around feedback data. The narrative one, the care opinion part of this report is really helpful in showing how the feedback of the people that we serve in Grampian leads to change. I'm interested if you had any narrative in terms of when people are bringing their feedback, particularly where things haven't quite gone to plan, or even where things have gone to plan, but there's constructive feedback in there. How many of those are closed down to the satisfaction of the person who submitted that feedback, where they're to put it in terms of where there's an open case with somebody and they've used care opinion to put in that case, and action is required with that particular patient. Is there a way of understanding what proportion of those are being resolved and in a relevant time frame?
Thank you, and that relates to the increasing work we're doing with engagement as well, doesn't it? And working with the people we serve. Adam's nodding there. Adam, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, really happy to. You said I don't know the number off the top of my head, but that's definitely something we can get back to you on, because that's part of trying to understand how we close the loop with the person through the interaction on care opinions. So we can find that out and get back to you. I'm sure if other June was here, she would know off the top of her head, but yes, yeah. I don't. So we'll get that checked out and come back to you.
Yeah. And
thank you, Adam. Coming back? Yeah, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for referencing putting people first. You took the words out of my mouth there. The second one is there's a comment here. Forgive me. Let me just find it, Chair. It says other feedback routes are available. I'm just wondering, in terms of data, are we able to collect, and we've talked in previous meetings about DATEX, which is the system for recording issues that occur within the system, but is there a way of getting that feedback data from those other routes, albeit I appreciate very, very difficult to quantify. Some of that feedback may literally be somebody saying, thank you, that was a great service, as they leave the ward or they leave the clinic. But again, the same question, but for those other routes, how many people are giving us feedback by those routes? Are we getting a good sample across Grampian, even if it's not being documented in this report? And what's the current story regarding closing the loop on that side?
Adam, do you want to come with that
Yeah,
one as well?
very happy to. So I think we collect that and know about that at probably in a hospital setting at ward level. I'm sure in primary care, general practice level. I don't know if Nick would make a comment. I know that in appraisal, lots of doctors draw on multi-source feedback for their appraisal process. I don't know if Nick maybe knows a bit more about how that then comes together as a whole, if that's okay, Alison. Thank you.
I think it's a really good point, actually, about the degree to which we collate all of those potential sources. We clearly have a social media scan, and the corporate comms do that to look at that side of things. Care Opinion clearly is a directly commissioned service, effectively, that we're involved with. What Adam is referring to is that all doctors have to seek multi-source feedback within the cycle of revalidation, which is a 5-year cycle, usually a minimum of 50 people, and we've got about 1,500 doctors. So actually that brings in circa many thousands, tens of thousands of pieces of feedback. That's looked at individually within people's revalidation. At the moment we don't collate it, but that's absolutely something we've been trying to look at about mechanistically how we can do that, because potentially that brings us into proactive feedback, and most of the other sources are reactive feedback. And so I think, and I think this has come up a lot in the discussions about how we engage with the public, is that we need to shift the balance a bit more into proactive feedback and bring that together. So I think it's very good points. So I can't give you a straight answer to say it's all in one place, because it's not. But we definitely have, some pretty rich avenues for collating feedback if we can get the platforms that allow us to do that. And certainly for individual professional feedback, that's one of them. Hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And Susan's indicated as well, I think, to come in on this.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. And it was just to echo what Nick was saying in terms of putting people first. One of the areas, and I'm sure Luann will mention it later, is what we're calling that real-time feedback loop. So starting at, and probably will be ward level, just so that we can begin to see all the different routes of feedback that we get, how we are able to analyse that and then feed that back in real time to staff working in the wards, so that they can make the changes. And equally what we're wanting to do is then build that system, so at board level you are able to see the things that are coming back and implications for things that we might need to change at a system level. But as Nick said, hugely complex, so work in progress, but absolutely something that we've recognised we can improve on.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. I think we've got a real strong direction of travel in this area, haven't we? And obviously Luann's on the call already in preparation for the Putting People First report later on the agenda, so I'm sure she's aware of this discussion as well. So yeah, it's really important that we do all we can on this direction to have a positive impact. So thank you for the question. Hussein, are you happy with the answers you've had there?
Can I come back very quickly, Chair? Yeah. Is that all right? Yeah, just to say I very much welcome those answers from everybody there. I'm very mindful of how much pressure our staff are under, Chair, but I would appreciate the opportunity to look at this issue perhaps in more detail at some point once some of that scoping work has been done, because I do have concerns, and pulling on the health equities bit, it would be very helpful to understand some of the other routes. As I say, I am concerned that some of the most vulnerable in society may not be able to access some of these routes for a whole variety of different reasons, and being able to have a bit more of a deep dive to understand how this is working in practice and what we're actually learning from that would be really helpful. But I'll leave it there for now, Chair, with my thanks once again.
No, that's really helpful, Hussein. Obviously we're on a journey here, so comments like that are really helpful, and I'm sure they've been noted as well. So we can think about that going forward. But June did indicate there. June, would you want to make a final comment on this as well?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. Hussein, I just wanted to raise the point in relation to our responsiveness to care opinion and closing the loop. And actually, we have really high rates of responsiveness and currently are sitting at 94%. So a really high, still room for improvement, but a really high response rate to close that loop. Thank you.
Thank you, June, for that final comment. Thank you very much. I think we'll move on now to John, please. John.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And thank you for the report. As I think echo what Hussein was saying, it has really got to a good place and really helpful as a board member getting that assurance. There's the theme for me reading through quite a number of the papers that are in front of us today, and Adam, brought it in with the unscheduled care part. So I'd like to point to page 48. Now, I know it is extremely complex, as we've already touched on, so this might sound a bit simplistic, but I'm just wondering, and this page looks at delayed discharges, so it's the community end, and I'm just wondering, there's a lot of really good work going on, but is the focus equally intense or whatever at that end? And I know social care, it's a hot potato, etc., but to me, we're doing a lot of really excellent work, but is some of that going to be undermined if we don't have the equivalent focus at the other end? It'd be interesting comment on that, and it reflects then also onto our 3-year delivery plan and how we're going to tackle that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I just add to my own question around to that as well. I'll add so it can be looked at as well about the shared learning across the system. We've obviously got different parts of the system involved in this as well, and different levels of progress. So is learning shared about how we can move forward as well? I'd just add to that one. Adam, would you like to take these comments?
Yeah, thanks to both of you for those. So I think probably the key bit of work to share on delayed discharge at the moment is I've asked Angie Wood, formerly of our parish, who's now lead for delayed discharge at the government. She's a director in Scottish Government, and within her billywhack is the bit on delayed discharge. So in a conversation with Angie two or so months ago, I asked if her expert team could come and do some work with us across the whole northeast, so through City, Shire and Murray, in a joined up way. So, another illustration of the Northeast working together. And we've got our kickoff meeting with the whole team, including government, COSLA, all sorts of people, and 3 chief execs of the council, 3 chief officers, next Tuesday, to see how we frame that work and how we scope it to get the absolute maximum out of it. And I think really critically, what June Brown and Nick have been thinking about recently is, from an acute end, how do we work with people in the community about what we can do much better from a hospital end, and how do people in the community bit, how do we support them to enable them to do their work well? And clearly that's absolutely their expertise. I think the real advantage of the work with the external group is they're going to help us think about what we do well in the different bits, because it's quite variable performance at the moment, and what is it we learn. Now, clearly, we also need to remember that all parts of the system are under real financial challenge as well. And so there is there's a real tension, isn't there? There's a real dynamic tension in how do we get sustainable provision and solution, and how do we work in this really challenging period at the moment. So, I'll look forward, John, to bringing a report probably through one of the committees of the board, but about how that work unfolds over the next few months, and what can we do that will give us that sustainable change going forward.
Thank you, Adam. Before I come back to John, Geraldine, you indicated you want to comment as well on this.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to, I suppose, supplement some of the information that we've described in the report. So there is an optimising patient flow group, which is very much a whole system group. So we have community and acute colleagues attending that, and that's been underway for quite some time. So there's been quite a lot of really positive progress just in terms of understanding our processes and also our data and how we use our data. And I think obviously, going forward, we're really keen that we've got everything in place so that we're utilising all of our capacity, and we've got patients that are in the right place, whether that's in community or in acute setting or at home. So I think there's certainly really good collaboration that's been worked through via that group. Thanks.
Thank you, Geraldine. John, would you like to come back?
Yeah, just to say that that's really helpful to hear, and being proactive in that coming through will be extremely helpful. I think it also fits with some of the things that we've talked about in different forums about starting to plan ahead for next year's budgets and development, so that we're doing things with as many intended consequences as possible. So really welcome the response to that. That gives real assurance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. And that working together so everyone understands each other better, I think that's really a key part of that. Before I come to Joyce, Ian, you indicated there, is it about this issue or about something else?
It's about a different point, Alison.
Different point. Right, I'll come to Joyce first then. Joyce.
Thank you. I'd like to say thanks for the How Are We Doing report, because the clarity on this is much greater than it was a few years ago. It's a huge improvement, and we did go through it in great depth at PAFEC last week. However, I'd like to make an observation about part of the care opinion information. The second comment response from ourselves to someone who had sleep apnea. I feel this is a good example of where we're not really putting people first and putting the person at the centre, because the response is very factual, but I don't think it actually answers their question and gives sufficient care or consideration of how they're feeling. And I don't think they'd be happy with it. I wouldn't be happy with it. And I think it demonstrates where our communication needs to improve, and by improving the communication, the situation won't necessarily improve, but the way you say things makes a big difference. So I think that would be useful to be picked up on, and thinking about how the people are feeling when they're getting these responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. That's really important point. But actually putting people at the centre of what we're doing is obviously a really important part of how we move forward. I don't know if anyone would like to comment on that. June, would you be able to say?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. You're trying to respond in a very generic way that doesn't really give huge amounts of information to an individual, and so it's striking that balance between providing enough information to respond to the query without getting too involved in the individual case, where perhaps we could resolve that at a different level with local resolution, not even going down the formal complaint route, but with further discussions. And I know that there is always the opportunity for individuals to contact us, and we normally put that in the response as well. So if you would like further information, please contact us. So that balance can be a little bit difficult.
Okay, Joyce, would you like to come back?
Yeah, no, they have contacted us and they have stated something. So I think it's on us there to see what else they can do. Are there alternatives? Are there other suggestions of what could help them at the moment? And to show that we care, because there's no point saying they can come back to us again, because they'll just get more upset about the whole situation. They have come to us. We need to provide a decent answer, and that doesn't mean solving the problem. That means showing that we care about the situation they're in, and we're trying to work through it. But we can't solve their problem, but we can be really caring to them whilst they're going through that situation. Thanks.
Thanks, Joyce. I think that's really important, and it has to be a key aspect of the work when we are talking about putting people first, that we do put all people first in what we're doing as individuals as well as themes as well. So thank you for that, Joyce. Thank you. Ian, please.
Thank you, Alison. Can I take you to the word clouds on page 24 of the pack, page 9 of the report? Perhaps not unsurprisingly, staff are the standout word in the what's good, but staff attitude is one of the three most prominent terms in the what could be improved cloud. And I wondered, and I appreciate this would have to be anecdotal rather than based on data, but in terms of the staff attitude, would somebody like to comment on my supposition that is perhaps a reflection of the pressure that staff are under and their levels of exhaustion at times, rather than perhaps something which is internal to them normally? And is that a reasonable assumption, or is there a more general issue that with some staff that needs to be addressed?
Thank you. Adam, would you like to come in?
Yeah, very happy to. And I won't speculate, but you might well be in the right line. I guess what we're thinking about as an organisation is our culture, and we're thinking about maybe Tom's put his hand up. I'm sure he's going to speak about the culture collaborative and the work we're doing there. We're also very conscious of areas that are under significant pressure and how we support them on their cultural journey. Also how we support teams to do things like their Aston team journey, which again allows teams to think about their purpose, what they do, how they work as a team, and all of those things have that sense of improvement in culture. And you'll be aware as a board, the feedback we get both from iMatter and in particular areas where we've done the deeper dive with the BPA survey, that allows us collectively but locally with support from some of Tom's team to think about how we improve that. So again, it will be some pockets, some individual incidents like you're describing, and we need to work on both of those for really good outcomes all the time for people.
Thank you, Adam. Tom, do you want to expand?
Yeah, thanks, Alison. Thanks, Ian, for the question. Like Adam said, I guess it's difficult and problematic to speculate too much, other than to note, I suppose, that what could be improved is inevitably going to be linked to experiences that maybe people feel are less positive. And the key thing people do when they come into our system is interact with other human beings, isn't it, and interact with our staff. One of the things that we've got in the delivery plan for the current year for 24-25, which we'll be discussing, I guess, later on, is a focus on embedding our values. And I guess we've developed resources in collaboration with staff over the last year to try and ensure that there are tools available for teams and in services to actually explore what do the values actually mean in practice. Because I think a gap we've identified is we've got long-standing values for the organisation of caring, listening and improving, but we need to be clearer, I guess, on what does that mean we need people to be like, or how do we need people to show up at work, and how do we support people and managers when sometimes that's not what we want and need it to be. We don't expect everybody to have identical values. We're all individual human beings with our own values and our own, what we bring to work, and that diversity is really important. But it is important that we have a clear set of understanding of what our organisation's values, i.e. what we value as an organisation, mean in practice for people when they turn up at work. And we've been doing some work on that at Chief Executive Team sessions, and that will inform, I guess, the activities we prioritise in trying to ensure that our values are embedded effectively across the system. And at the same time, there is no doubt that our colleagues are working under very significant pressure at the moment and have been for some time. And I think the fact that we have moved on in many respects from the pandemic doesn't mean that the services aren't under significant pressure. And that clearly is something that we have to try and support colleagues to deal with, and I guess trying to be true to our organisational values and use those as a sort of a North Star for us in that respect is really important.
Thanks, Tom. Ian, would you like to come back?
Just thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I mean, I think those 2 points brought out there are really important. Our staff are at the heart of all we do and are absolutely crucial to everything as we seek to serve the communities here across Grampian. And those twin aspects that are brought out of embedding values and looking after staff wellbeing and supporting staff, I think, are really important to all of us. So we do hold that at the heart and need to carry on that, those key aspects of work as well. Okay, I can't see any other indications on this report and how we do a report. We've been asked to note this report. Can we agree that we've noted it thoroughly then? Thank you. Thank you for everyone. Thank you. Okay, then moving on to the item 7 on the agenda, which is a 3-year delivery plan, the medium-term financial framework and the workforce plan annual update. I'll pass first to Alex to introduce these, please. Alex.
Thanks. Susan Harold's going to give us a little bit of a brief introduction to the annual delivery plan, I'll do a little bit on the finance side of things, and then Tom's going to say a few words on the workforce side of things, and then we'll open up for questions. So Susan, over to you.
Thank you, Alex, and good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Just a few points really to highlight. The suite of documents that have been presented, as we have in previous years, our 3-year delivery plan, the medium-term financial framework, workforce plan update, the new draft integrated assessment tool, and also the summary plain English version that has been shared to support communication of key messages and priorities. So just again, the route to this meeting, obviously we had board drop-in sessions during February to discuss the delivery plan, which had been commissioned in December. So development underway at that point, and feedback from board members there that was very helpful. And the delivery plan was also considered at the closed board session in March prior to submission to Scottish Government. And again, helpful feedback there that we were able to incorporate and reflect. So just key points to pull out of that, and most colleagues will be well aware of this, that our DP was commissioned this year in conjunction with our finance plan, a part of SG's aspiration that we move towards a more medium term and integrated way of planning and ensuring alignment with plans. So that commission jointly this year and required that enhanced collaboration across our system, given the challenging financial situation and the need to align as far as possible our delivery plan, and also a delivery plan that reflects the realities of our financial position in 24-25 and going forward. So the delivery plan continues very much our approach to deliver our plan for the future, which is our strategy. It follows on from last year's delivery plan, with our focus continuing on people, places and pathways, and sets out our priorities for the next 12 months in detail, and in line with our finance plan and the Scottish Government 10 drivers of recovery that we've had over the last couple of years, and they largely are unchanged. Key priorities, as has been discussed earlier in this meeting, as we know, continues for the government to be unscheduled care, and also reducing our waits for planned care. Colleagues also aware that those 10 recovery drivers cover areas that we're responsible and accountable for as an NHS board, but also that our IJB and Health and Social Care Partnership colleagues are responsible for delivering. So again, as discussed earlier in the meeting, absolutely essential as we go forward that we are continuing the good collaboration we already have, but that enhanced collaboration with all of our partners. And I guess just the final very important point to before I hand over to Alex, we did receive Scottish Government approval of our delivery plan, which had been submitted to them, but we absolutely very much on the basis that the plan must remain dynamic and responsive, and that's absolutely in the context of the ongoing discussions that we continue to have with Scottish Government around the delivery and implementation and risks to delivery over the next year as well, and in keeping with our plan for the future, which is also a live and dynamic document. The delivery plan, hopefully once endorsed, will be incorporated onto our plan for the future website as well. So I'll pause there and hand over to Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. So at the last PAFIC meeting, I was asked to highlight the financial position and financial risk to the board during this presentation. I was going to do that anyway, but I think based on the action from PAFIC, which was aligned to me, I hope that this little presentation kind of closes that off. In 2023-24, our financial position was an overspend of 24.7 million before brokerage was applied. The level of overspend was within the financial brokerage limit set by the Scottish Government. At the start of the financial year, we were forecasting an overspend of £60 million, and we received another £35 million of additional funding from the Scottish Government during the financial year. In order to deliver the overspend of £24.7 million, 2 financial recovery plans were implemented during the year, which provided a number of one-off savings. As stated within the report, the underlying deficit moved largely due to operational and inflationary pressures during the year, and most probably in the region of between 70 to 80 million pounds. For 2024-25, the year of the plan that we're putting forward today, we undertook a substantial engagement process with staff and the board under our Finding Balance programme. This programme sought to identify financial savings which found balance between our three key strands of governance, being finance, people and clinical, but also considered prevention, given the impact this work will have on future demand for our services. The Finding Balance programme was able to identify £35 million of savings against a forecast overspend at that time of £94 million. We identified other themes which will help deliver further savings during the financial year and future financial years, and these have been included within the Value and Sustainability programme. The Chief Executive team identified further savings, which if delivered would help to reach the new Scottish Government brokerage limit of 50 million. However, if these savings were delivered at pace, our assessment was they did not find balance between our three key strands of government, as although they would have supported the financial position, they would have impacted on people and the performance of our clinical services. The financial risk to the organisation is currently characterised as high and is under review each month. We continue to discuss the budget with the Scottish Government officials and are looking at refining the financial plan over the next few months. The purpose of these refinements will be to provide more detail and a plan, a route map to financial balance. Chair, I'm going to pass over to Tom, who's going to say a few words on the workforce plan.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Alison. Thanks, Alex. So just to really highlight that the 3-year workforce plan progress update is just that. It's a refresh of the plan that was agreed in 2022-23, initially for a 3-year period. I hope you'll agree it reflects on the risks that we are experiencing and have identified in our system at the current time, and it really sets our course for the period ahead, noting, I guess, that the real engine room of workforce planning is a service level activity, and indeed when looking at the recent letters on reform of the NHS in Scotland, the vision for that, noting that the integrated planning of services is one of the key drivers of that future vision. We, I guess, reviewed and endorsed the update at the Staff Governance Committee at the end of February, and there haven't really been any significant changes to it since then, other than to address a bit of feedback that came about the prominence of our equality and diversity work within the plan. What I would also draw the board's attention to is the feedback received as part of the approval letter from Scottish Government on our deliverables relative to the workforce recovery driver, which were described as by Scottish Government as realistic and in line with planning guidance. And I guess that covered off right workforce and culture and wellbeing within our annual delivery plan that we're looking at today. The workforce plan update is noted by Scottish Government, and we're to have further discussions on that, as was the case last year. But I would note also that it's been referenced elsewhere in the approval letter in the feedback that's been provided on other recovery drivers. So clearly Scottish Government colleagues have read it and noted its content, and hopefully that's helpful to the board to be aware of today. So thank you, Alison. That's all I needed to say.
Thank you, Tom. Alex, is that presentation?
Yeah, that's us all done. I'm happy to take questions and comments on the report, Chair.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think it's really important we're looking at these plans together, if you think about where we are now and the challenges we're facing, and also where we want to get to. I think it's really important that we do consider these together. So thank you for that style of going forward as well. Ian, please.
Thanks, Alison. Questions, or two questions, are in relation to the Scottish Government not yet approving the financial plan. And I think I asked the same question at our last meeting. Is there any prospect that government will do so, and would you like to give a stab at when that might be? And secondly, how many other boards are in the same position as Grampian when it comes to having their financial plan not approved by the Scottish Government?
Thank you. Alex.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ian. Yeah, we continue to work with the Scottish Government around about the approval of the plan. So, you know, Adam and myself had a conversation, I think it was last week, with the around about the finance plan with the Director of Finance for Health. So we continue to work our way around about on that. One of the things that they're keen to see is what that route map to financial balance looks like, and that's kind of what we were talking about in terms of the report. So we've started that process just now, and we're just kind of formulating how we're going to go and develop that plan to get that level of detail that they require around about that. And we, you know, working our way through that. So we are staying very close with them around about this. We're in regular contact with them, but I can't say at this point in time when it might be or might not be approved. In relation to other health boards, I don't want to go into specifics, but I do believe that there's 5, 6, possibly 7 health boards that are in a similar position to ourselves, and you know, so those conversations will be happening with the other health boards as well.
Thank you, Alex. Ian, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I appreciate that, and I do also appreciate all the work that you and all your colleagues are doing to in this very challenging situation. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Sandy.
Thanks, Alison. A couple of comments and one question, although I think the question's probably been answered by Adam already. But I think firstly, thank you, Alex, for following up on the issue that was raised at PAFIC regarding the financial position. And I think, as you say, Alison, it's the importance of considering that together. I think the wider board need to be fully aware of the detail of our position and own that position. The second comment is I welcome on, I think it's page 6 of the report, the clear statement that given the pressures across our whole system and the challenging financial landscape, that it will be important that the delivery plan is realistic and deliverable, and that prioritisation and a longer phasing of actions will be necessary. I think clear messaging around what that realistic phasing will look like will be important for the public and for staff and for the public, for the government, because I think there's nothing more demoralising for our staff to have to come to different parts of the assurance system and governance committees to constantly report on unachievable or unrealistic targets. So I think we need to be clearer in relation to that. And in terms of how we manage that, that needs to be much more open and transparent and needs to support our staff as well. I think the comment I was wanting to make was in relation to the alignment of our performance arrangements across NHS Grampian and the 3 IJBs. I've mentioned this before. There are issues in relation to the 4 partners being able to have a consistent framework of reporting performance and work together in relation to that. And indeed, across acute and secondary care, we need to see improvements in that respect. I think many people would be quite surprised that we don't have that already, given that the IJBs were launched 8 years ago. So, Adam, I'm just wondering, is the meeting next week a precursor to actually organising that? Or is that statement of an aligned performance framework still an ambition some way away without any progress being taken?
Thank you, Sandy. That's a really important point. I think we've hinted at it in previous questions today as well, haven't we? The importance of that whole system approach and people working together. But Adam, do you want to say how far are we progressing with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the progress we are making is a more cohesive financial planning, but actually in 3 conversations, to be honest. So with Murray, City and Shire individually, and we lining up dates for teams to work together so that we're starting for budget setting next year during the summer is the plan agreed with each of the chief executives from each of the council, and clearly playing with the chief officers from the integration joint board. So that's in train, but it's not as a a single Northeast bit yet, although we do lots of work in, you know, the Northeast Population Health Alliance. We have an officer group, the chairs meet and things. I'm not sure we're quite ready for that financial step across all three bits together. So that's probably step 2, a bit further away, I would think.
Thanks. Sandy, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I wasn't meaning the financial thing, Adam. I was meaning more in relation to a kind of wider performance framework. I'm very conscious.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm very conscious at the board or at PAFIC or at Population Health or at the IJBs. I get different bits of performance reported with different sets of lenses on it. But for members of the public who are accessing pathways, they will come into contact with a range of services, and they may have quite different experiences about how joined up or otherwise that pathway is. And we're not really good at being able to have a sort of system-wide view of how that's working. So it does feel as if the 4 partners are all doing their own thing in great detail, but it doesn't feel that coherent. And it's fine to state that ambition and restate it, but it doesn't feel as if we're making any progress towards it, which is quite surprising in terms of where we're at and the evolution of our system.
Can I come back in, Alison?
Yeah, of course, Adam.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I misunderstood your question. The first bit, Sandy answered the wrong thing. Yeah, I think that's a really key challenge. I think we've got some steps to take collectively. So if we look at something like the Northeast Population Health Alliance, which I think's, you know, the building blocks of incredible success, there's still, although there's no cohesion between it, there's still the subsidiarity of community planning and each bit being really key. So, you know, I guess we've a journey to go on for what you're describing. I think from a much closer health and care provision bit, so in the middle of our plan for the future, the delivery of health, correcting ill health. I think again in the plan for the future, we've got our pathways bit, and we've identified in our delivery plan a number of pathways to concentrate on, and maybe that's the opportunity we've got to try and do it, as you say, Sandy, across the whole pathway of care. But I would acknowledge your sense that we haven't got that licked at all, and definitely more work to do on that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, maybe the theme about the work being done on mental health is a theme in this as a step towards this kind of thinking across the piece as well. That it's progressing. Thank you, John. Were you going to come in on this point?
Thank you. Well anticipated. Thank you. There was just to pick up from the Northeast Partnership Steering Group, which I currently chair, and I think we invite Adam and Alison along to that, and that's along with the chairs and vice chairs from the IJBs. So I think this should be a point of, we have been talking about shared working, but I think what we learned from the Northeast Population Health Alliance work was that we kind of skirted around some of the elephants in the room around independent working, but I think we're mature enough as a group, as a number of organizations, to try and address that more directly. And clearly there's work going on, really important work among the executives to join this up. I think those of us that are on boards probably need to try and get alongside that to do our part, so that there's not a disconnect there. And maybe we can use that group. Its next meeting is next month. All we need to know is the touch points of what conversations are taking place, and I think that will help, rather than our last experience was suddenly something came out and then it caused some sensitivity. So I think that's a way, and that can make a contribution, Alison. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
No, and thank you, John, for your leadership on this. And I think it's really important, Sandy, that you've aired this, and we can take it as a collective action point moving forward as well, about how we work towards that position that we need to get to, particularly in the challenges of the system. So thank you for airing it, John, Sandy, and for leadership in this as well, John. Colette, were you coming in on this item or something else on this point?
Yes, it's on this point, Alison.
Thank you.
Apologies if it's a naive question based on my lack of experience. It's related to the specific financial risks and related to the discussion that we're having. The paper states that no provision has been made to support the health and social care partnerships with overspends in the next 5 years. This is probably being discussed elsewhere, but do we understand the potential scale of those overspends and how is the risk being managed? The paper says that we're working with CFOs to monitor the risk, but it doesn't actually say how it's being managed.
Thank you. Alex, can I bring you in on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we work closely in a system around about that. So I've got regular meetings with the chief finance officers to understand what's happening within their system. But you are right, Colette. My role is more around about the monitoring of that. The actual addressing of the risk really lies with the IJB themselves in terms of how they address their financial challenges. So we are working with them and helping to support wherever we can, but we need to monitor that, make an assessment of it, and then we'll need to determine how we deal with that during the financial year. As for those of you who are not aware, we have got a risk share arrangement with the IJBs, that if the IJBs overspend at the end of the financial year, then we pick up a certain percentage of that overspend. So that's my response to that question. But Adam, you maybe got a bit more to add to that one.
Yeah, Adam.
Thanks, Alison. Just to close a little bit, Alex hinted at. So I meet with each of the chief officers along with the chief executive of each of the councils respectively, and so there is a more than monitoring, there is an active engagement and performance management associated with that. As Alex says, with a shared risk profile, it's in both organisations' interest to support the IJBs to work as well as they can, and we clearly recognise at the moment that they're under huge financial pressure as well. So it's difficult for both the integration joint boards and also for NHS Grampian and all three of the councils as well.
Thank you, Adam. Colette, is that helpful?
Yes, it is indeed. And actually, I think for the purposes of clarity, it might be useful to allude to some of the things that have just been mentioned in the papers when they actually come to the board, just to highlight the fact that it is actively being managed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Colette. Thank you. Derek, please.
Thank you. First off, can I just say welcome to Colette and to Richie, two people I know from previous past. Welcome onto the board. I have some comments on the annual delivery plan. 4 comments actually. First one relates sort of obliquely to Sandy's point, and it's about Dr. Gray's and the relationship between Dr. Gray's and ARI. And if I go to it's page 81 of the pack, it talks about priority areas and it lists them A to O. And H is Dr. Gray's. And I get the impression that it sounds like Dr. Gray's is a separate entity requiring its own category when all the other categories apply to it as well. So the impression is given that everything is written for ARI and Dr. Gray's is an additional feature rather than part of the whole. So I just was wondering if it might read better rather than saying Dr. Gray's, if we said implementation of the Dr. Gray's strategy. I mean, Dr. Gray's is part of the whole, so everything else applies to Dr. Gray's, so why would it stand out as a separate thing? So that's one comment. Second comment is on page 103 on the risk themes table. It talks about an infrastructure section, and I think that infrastructure section could mention sustainability as a risk, given the high carbon output that we have and the implications of that. I didn't see that sustainability risk mentioned anywhere else, but I think it could be in there. And a couple of other minor points. On page 107, the report talks about the board approving the Grampian Sustainable Strategy later this year. but it's already approved. We did that a while ago, so we need to catch up a wee bit there. And lastly, just the wee presentation issue. On page 109, it talks about A to I, which is essentially the I think the government's 10 priorities. But it would have been helpful if there was a wee key that told you what A to I was. If you're looking at that page on its own, you don't really understand what A to I is. So if there was a wee key to explain that, that would have been helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments, Derek. Alex, do you want to kick off with comment response?
Yeah, I mean, we take those comments on board, particularly the last two. The Dr. Gray's is in there. It's very much part of our system. We recognise that, but there are some specific challenges that we're trying to address in Dr. Gray's at the moment in relation to some of the work that's being undertaken in relation to that, which is why it's categorised separately there, but it's certainly a major part of our system and is operating in that way.
Thank you, Alex. Adam, you indicated as well.
Yeah, thanks, Alison. Alex more or less covered it. I was just going to comment on the Dr. Gray's part. You're absolutely right, Derek. All of the other more generic issues, as described, my word, not yours, of course, apply to Dr. Gray's. We thought long and hard when we structured this the year before last. I think we had Dr. Gray's as a standalone named item, and it was really deliberate and thoughtful because there are a number of issues that we need to do. And equally, in the flip side of that, we are often in danger of only talking about Forrester Hill and not remembering Dr. Gray. So it's for both reasons to absolutely, as you say, deliver the strategy associated with Dr. Gray's and to make sure it's absolutely near the top of our thinking in everything that we do to make it the successful hospital that we want it to be.
Thank you, Adam. Derek, would you like to come back? Are you content?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's a difficult one because Dr. Gray's is a different hospital, and what's its relationship to ARI? And Tom knows I've been thinking about this in the background as well. I just think it might have read a little bit better if we'd said implementation of the strategy rather than just simply Dr. Gray's. It would have fitted better in my reading of it. But thanks for any future consideration of that. That'll be helpful.
That's really important points, Derek. I'm sure those writing it will have taken this on board as well. So thank you for that. Joyce, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very content with the 3-year delivery plan, the finance planning and the workforce, and the fact that they're all linked for the first time, which is really important because these things don't work in silos. And I believe that the work that's been done to see that they can be implemented with some sort of planning and prioritisation has helped us be more assured. What concerns me, however, is the Scottish Government's implementation, or asking us to implement the non-pay commitments for the Agenda for Change. And have we yet managed to cost these and see what that implication will be in terms of cost? Do we know if Scottish Government is going to fully fund that cost? And also, what will be the implications in terms of prioritisation and planning? Because we have a limited resource to do all of the other work. So presumably that's going to impact on the time and who is going to be able to deliver the delivery plan as it was. Thanks.
Thank you, Joyce. I'll bring Tom in to respond to that, please. Tom.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Joyce. We have done some initial modelling of what the costs of implementing the non-pay reforms, and chiefly the reduction of the working week, initially to 37 hours and then on to 36 hours over the next couple of years, plus the Band 5 nursing review, which will see eligible colleagues given the opportunity to be considered for a Band 6 role based on their experience and responsibilities. We've done some modelling of the costs of that, and I guess the range of outcomes do highlight that there could be a risk that we won't have enough funding from the allocation that has been made by Scottish Government for this year in the first instance. And I guess what we need to know and understand with much more clarity is, for example, the proportion of colleagues who would be both eligible for and put themselves forward for a Band 5 review, for example. And we've only just recently received the director's letter outlining the process for doing that, and I guess the standard that must be reached, I guess, in order to be eligible. So it's still work in progress in terms of being able to model that. So I think the best thing we can probably say is that there is a risk that we will not have sufficient funding, but we don't know that for definite, or the extent of that for definite yet. One of the other actions we've identified, and I'm expecting that the programme manager that we'll be putting in place to support the work over what will probably be a 2-3 year period for this programme of reform as an absolute minimum, is to do some modelling and support services with modelling what the impacts of reducing the working week to 36 hours will be, in addition to the Band 5 nursing review, and of course noting the need to achieve balance in terms of financial balance, reduce supplementary staffing, and also implement the Health and Care Staffing Act. So a really complex picture, not just complicated. The reforms themselves are complicated. It's a complex picture when we take all those policy strands into play, and we need to help services to actually understand the implications of that for themselves and understand what that means in terms of the cloth they have available to them to deliver service. So I think it's a lot more work to do on it, Joyce, would be the honest answer to that question, and can't say with absolute certainty how close or not we will be in terms of the funding allocation that's been made to date. And I think we just have to keep in dialogue with Scottish Government about what we're discovering as we go through the implementation process, and also through the modelling of the financial implications of that. I don't know if Alex would have any further views on that in terms of conversations that have been had around the finances nationally, but that'd be my take on it as the exec lead for the programme.
Yeah, Alex, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't put it better myself in relation to what Tom said. The big risk around about it is that Band 5 to Band 6, and there's a certain backdating element to that as well until we know what the demand is for that. We don't have an accurate figure yet about whether that money that's been put across will be enough. But I know it's an area of interest to the directors of finance nationally, and we're keeping a close eye on it in relation to there, and continuing conversations with the government as more information comes to light. One of the challenges that we may find within Grampian is that potentially we may have more Band 5s moving to Band 6 because of how our system's designed and some of the challenges that we face. So we're aware of that. We're working our way through it and just trying to get to a figure as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you, Alex. Joyce, would you like to come back?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think it's probably being reported through PAFIC, but also through staff governance in the future. But I think it's also important that it comes to the whole board so that we're all aware of the implications of this for non-delivery of various aspects of the plan, and also the financial implications for us. Thanks.
Thank you, Joyce. Alex, is you coming back?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I've spoken to the finance team, and we will be highlighting the implications of AFC in our regular finance report, so they will come forward to the board.
Thank you. And Tom, you're coming back as well?
Yeah, and just to build on that, we do have a session scheduled, I think, for the September board on a progress update with implementation of the reforms. So that will be an opportunity to provide some of that detail in the board setting, not just staff governance committee and PAFIC, as Joyce has alluded to.
Yeah, but I do think it's important the whole board is aware of this, obviously, because of the huge implications as well. So thank you for that. And the other important point to reiterate is the ongoing discussions with government as well, to make them aware of our increasing knowledge and understanding as our own work progresses on this. Thank you for the question, Joyce. That was really important to bring that to the board. Dennis, please.
Thank you, Alison. My question has just been answered in terms of the agenda for change, but I wonder if I could just go back just a wee bit in terms of, John mentioned the North East Partnership Group and how important that is in bringing people together. And it's really just to emphasise that the chief officers themselves meet on a weekly basis and share good practice. So there's a lot of work going on in the background in terms of how we share information and how we actually can deliver better outcomes for the people of Grampian. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. It's really important that work's going on. It's really important as well that we're seeing the outcomes of that as well. So thank you for that. John, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment on the papers and then just a practical ask. So the comment is just welcoming seeing these coming together and how they are starting to knit together. I know for a number of times we've talked about what the modelling needs to be at a kind of capacity and need, and I can start to now see that coming together, and I think it's an important role for the board to be able to get a handle on that. So that's really welcome. And the practical ask I have is on page 61, and I ask this as one of the committee chairs. So it's probably very obvious, but it's so that we move quickly on it. We've got the various aspects of the delivery plan and then committees to take a role in oversight of some of these. Can that allocation be done quite quickly so that we get that at the next round of committees and get moving with it? I know Sarah did it as board secretary for us first time round, and it's probably more straightforward this time, but be good that we're not guessing which ones and they get allocated out. Thank you.
No, we had a good discussion about it last year, didn't we? And you're right, Sarah, as board secretary. Alex, are you going to be helping us take that forward this year, please?
Yeah, I'll help take that one forward, Chair. I'll take that as an action and we'll get something moving on that as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and that's a very specific ask, and it is something that, yes, it does need to happen. So each committee knows what they've got on their own work plan going forward as well. So thank you very much for that, John, as well. I can't see any more indications on this. I just want to draw out from this discussion as well that the bit that we haven't mentioned about the impact assessment draft that we've got in front of the papers as well, and how important that piece of work is going forward as well. We're obviously talking about a lot of challenges that are going to have a potential impact across our service and across what we're delivering for people in our communities. So it's really important that we do have that impact assessment there as well. We've got the draft format within it. It'll be interesting to see how that format actually works in practice over the next wee while, and whether any adjustments would be seen as useful to that. But as a way forward at the moment, I think that's really helpful. So just to draw out the fact that we've got that now, and thank you for the people involved in that, and looking forward to the continual review of how effective that is going forward. Okay, I can't see any other indications on this. We have a series of recommendations on this paper to agree. If I just go through them quickly, the first one was endorsing the 3-year delivery plan. Agree that?
Agree.
Endorse the medium-term financial framework and the further work being done in conjunction with the government.
Yes.
Agree, thank you. The workforce plan annual update.
Yes.
Thank you. The work around the impact assessment is the next recommendation. Agree that one?
Yes.
Yeah, and then obviously from our point of view, we are to receive updates on the delivery plan from the end of June 24, and the committees have really the bit that John was referring to as well, the reporting mechanism for committees and things going forward. We agree that one as well.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And agree that there are a number of risks. I think we've all acknowledged those. So can we agree the 6th recommendation as well?
Agreed.
Agree.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that really useful, thorough discussion. Really appreciate everyone's comments and the reflections about future work as well and where we need to go. It's very helpful to hear all that. Okay, then moving on to item 8 then, which is the bed and anchor update. Nick, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. So this is going to be a brief update in terms of the overall programme progress, together with a focus on 2 of the critical areas around quality control, the KSAR process and HAO mitigation. We've got Colin on the line, who is our project director, and wonder if Colin could just highlight a couple of the key points, and then we can open up for questions. Colin.
Thank you very much, Nick, and good morning all. I brought this paper forward today just to note progress with the Baird and Anchor project and to give an update on a couple of key quality matters, and also just to provide a note on the current project cost, programme and risk management. So in terms of the situation, the project's at quite an important stage just now. The Anchor Centre is nearly complete in terms of construction, going through the early parts of a commissioning stage, and the works to the Baird Family Hospital are progressing well and are on target for completion as per the contractor's most recent programme. Previous updates that we've brought to this board is that there has been a design review process focused on HAI issues, and that project costs have continued to rise. So I'm just going to focus today on the quality issues. There's two aspects to this. The first is the position where we are with regards to the HAI review, and the second is in relation to the key stage assurance reviews that are being undertaken with NHS Scotland Assure. So if I focus specifically on the HAI review, I can confirm now that the project is benefiting greatly from an increased and additional dedicated IPC doctor and nursing time, and there's certainly a lot more focus groups set up within the project management situation to allow for further meetings and dialogue with IPC, and for the IPC to be engaged and involved in auditing the buildings as they're being constructed. We confirmed back in March 2024 that there was a series of measures that would have to be implemented within the buildings, and along with those there was a series of feasibility studies that would be undertaken by the project team to evaluate the impact of the concerns that had been raised during this HAI review process. And I'm pleased to say that the feasibility studies are now progressing well, and we have started to see the output of those. And indeed, as of yesterday within the project board, we had a review session to discuss the implications of showers that had been installed in the building that may have raised concern. In conjunction with that, we're making great progress with the feasibility study for the Anchor Centre first floor open plan treatment space, and we look to, within the course of the next 2 weeks, have that matter completed and hopefully have a full resolution in relation to the works that need to be undertaken to the Anchor Centre, and then closely followed behind that with the Baird Family Hospital. As I've said, the feasibility studies are ongoing just now. The intention is to bring all of those back to the project board in July 2024, and then we'll report back to this board to confirm the final outcome of that. But at the moment, the position with the Anchor Centre is that we've held off commissioning the water system in that building until we've got a final conclusion on the works that have to be undertaken. But in the meantime, we've been evolving the technical commissioning plan and programme for the building on the premise that the outcome of the feasibility study is positive. As I've said, IPC have been regularly engaged, and we continue to work with them along with partners, the clinicians and technical experts. And indeed, as of this month, we've been involved in commissioning authorising engineers to come on board and support and approve the design proposals presented within the feasibility studies. In terms of the key stage assurance reviews, previously the board were informed in April 2023 that NHS Assure had carried out the first key stage assurance review for construction on the Anchor Centre, and following that there was an action plan that was presented by NHS Assure for the board to implement. I'm pleased to say that the Baird Family Hospital has now been through the key stage assurance review for construction, and from that we've had a series of meetings and workshops on site and remotely to consider some of the design and construction situations that they have identified on site, and they've come back to us with an initial statement of some of the comments that they've identified, where they've identified issues that may cause concern in the future, and with that we have been preparing an action plan, and that action plan is due to be presented to NHS Grampian within the next 3 weeks. But in the background, the project team have been developing both the responses for the action plan for the Anchor Centre and the Baird Family Hospital, and we look to, over the course of the next 2 months, be able to present back to NHS Assure the information required to gain a supported status to allow the project to move on to the commissioning stages. In terms of cost, the capital investment requirement for the Baird and Anchor project remains, in terms of the most recent budget forecast, at £261.1 million. What I've outlined to you so far in terms of the work that's been ongoing in relation to both the HAI issues and the key stage assurance reviews means that there are some unforeseens that will need to be considered in the way that the building cost will evolve over the next couple of months as we get to a conclusion on both of these matters. But I'm pleased to say that we've been having ongoing dialogue with the Scottish Government, who are very supportive of the situation and have confirmed the funding arrangements around any unexpected works that are necessary to implement. I've outlined in the paper a very short and brief estimate in terms of the functional occupation dates, and these I would stress are based on our best guesses at the moment. Given what we know in front of us in terms of some of the key risks and some of the outcomes of the feasibility studies, we've set a very conservative position of the Anchor Centre being complete in winter 2024 and the Baird Family Hospital being complete in summer 2025. Now, I would highlight that these are the functional occupation dates, and with that, they don't include yet for the actual migration of the services into the building. That work is currently being planned, and it's planned to have a very high level of detail at this stage, but that the final dates will be agreed in conjunction with the services, so there's no unexpected pressure on services, particularly during winter 2024. In terms of risk management, we continue to manage risk acutely. We hold weekly risk management meetings and monthly risk register reviews. And I'm pleased to say that some of the key risks we are starting to strike off, but as I've stated before within the paper here, we still have not yet come to the conclusion of the feasibility studies, which may bring an identification of further risk to the project, but we look to manage that as closely as possible going forward. I've also highlighted within the paper the kind of current active communication and engagement strategy. And I've stated that, following on from previous years, there's a more targeted approach, and that the project team continue to meet with key stakeholders, including the services, including the charitable partners, and put positive broadcasts around the progress of the project going forward. In terms of project performance, as I've stated, our project performance is reported regularly within the project board, and we've recently given a full update to PAFIC over the past month, and will continue to do so up to the end of the project. So with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Thank you,
Thank you very much, Colin, for that very thorough report there. Nick, were you coming in then? Sorry.
No, just to thank Colin for the thoroughness of the work. It's been very, very helpful. So very happy for us to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you for saying the same thing at the same time there, won't we, Nick? Thank you. Okay, I really appreciate the work you've done on that, Colin. Thank you. Derek, please.
Thanks, Alison. Just to note that we recently had a report to PAFIC on this subject. So all questions were asked at PAFIC, so no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek, for that. Thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions? No? Thank you. Well, thank you again, Colin, for the report. And can we agree the recommendations in the paper then about the progress and the current cost programme and risk management?
Yeah,
can we agree? Agree. Thank you very much. Okay, you'll all be pleased to hear that we can now have a comfort break for 10 minutes. So let's take a break now for 10 minutes, and we'll come back. Well, let's come back at 11:45. 11:45. Thank you. Okay, I hope we've all had a good break, fed, watered, and a few steps in as well, to support well-being of everybody as well. I hope that's all been accomplished in the last few minutes. I think we'll get started now. I think we're just about all back. Okay, so we're moving on to item 9 on our agenda. Item 9 is the research and development strategy. And Nick, I'll pass to you, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Firstly, to introduce Basan, who is our new R&D director, that many people won't have met already. But just to give a couple of very high-level things, and then I'll pass to Basan to give some of the key points that are from the paper. So as part of this refresh of the strategy, I'm going to cite the board on sort of 3 documents that they're going to see that are going to work together. We've got the strategy today, and then Vassan's going to outline the development of the delivery plan for the strategy, which we'll see towards the end of the year. And the third element is going to be our sort of research and innovation brochure, which promotes and celebrates the breadth of research and involvement across the NHS and our university partners. So that's the cluster that are going to come together. This is the start of the process. So if I pass over to Vassan just to give some high-level points about how it's been developed and how we've structured this into a really sort of quite tight, compact strategy.
Thank you, Nick, and welcome to Vassan as well. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. It's a privilege and honor to present the refresh of the strategy. We only have one strategy, and that is our commitment to research, the board strategy. So every service, every function interprets that in their own domain. So I call this the strategy with a small s rather than capital S. We have, as you can see, stuck to the corporate narrative of people, places, and pathways. We really listened first before we started. So there was a 2-month period of widely publicized stakeholder consultation exercise. We looked at what people were telling us, and that is to keep it short, keep it more specific, measurable, something where we can track the performance metrics and outcomes. So we have stuck to that narrative. We had extensive consultation, 3 rounds of consultation, largely through the clinical board, as well as through the senior management team of Dr. Fluck, and through internal staff consultations within R&D with our principal investigators and so on. The resulting document, which you see, is a 1-pager with something like 12 clear deliverables goals that we want to achieve. And these are in the form of addressing and the people domain, having a more positive research culture, EDI, monitoring performance, and making sure that our patients and public are involved and engaged. In terms of the places domain, we have, as Nick often puts it, 22 sites, so 6 office locations and 16 clinical research facilities where our staff are split. And that invariably leads to a level of siloed functioning, which can't be avoided when people are not meeting each other daily. And also the facilities are not as modern as some of the other health boards in Scotland. So fewer, better sites, and having those sites more engaging both as a physical or a virtual collaborative space, so that whenever anyone has an idea, they come to us early on and bounce it past us. That's going to be a priority for us to work with Andy Keane and others in the innovation space, with our universities, the innovation hubs, Scott Health, the government-owned company which promotes NHS innovation, and Opportunity Northeast in the Forester Hill Health Campus. And we don't want to forget that we have very close tie-ups with our regional boards in Shetland, Orkney, Western Isles, and Highlands, as well as the 3 health and social care partnerships and the public and third sector. On the pathways, lastly, we have 2 targets. So the first target is trebling the commercial clinical studies to meet, and I put that in quotes, the future of clinical research delivery. What this pertains to is the Lord O'Shaughnessy recommendations, which have been accepted by the UK government and Scottish government to quadruple commercial clinical trials within the net participants by the next 5 years. And the non-commercial side, they want to at least double the engagement from the CSO. So I've kind of narrated it as trebling the clinical trial recruitment. That's a very big ask. The other bit is more the enabling pathways, the big data, AI, the genomic strategy of the Scottish government, which has just been launched, and also the R&D career pathways for all health and social care professions. So we don't want it to be just the medical doctors. We want to think about the NMAPs, the pharmacy, the dentists, and anyone can do research and should do research. And finally, we want to commit ourselves to shaping at least 2 new centers of excellence in addition to defending our position in the existing centers that we have. If you talk about Aberdeen to someone in Cambridge, they would say MRI, they would say obs and gynae and reproductive health and so on. But we want them to start talking about at least 2 new areas where we will be, UK leading and slowly world leading. In terms of the delivery plan, as Nick mentioned, we will be having an inaugural workshop, a deep dive workshop. We want to do this bottom up in a consultative manner. We have external facilitators through my colleagues, Debbie Baldi and Preeti Singh, and we will do that on 25th of June. That will result in organically forming a few short life working groups, and those working groups will go away and populate the delivery plan. And then we will have a final workshop at the other university partner, local university partner, Robert Gordon, on the 17th of December. So this side of Christmas, we will hopefully have that done and dusted. So in terms of recommendations, what we are seeking is endorsement of the proposals in this paper, of the reporting that we have committed to in terms of coming back to you after 2 years with a sort of a major interim progress report. But also, if whenever there is a need that Dr. Flux sees that we should keep you informed, we will come to the board on an ad hoc manner. So with that, I stop and see if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Vasant. That's a very helpful run through, and thank you for the very clear strategy as well that you presented with us today as well. It's good to see that, and the board itself has recognised that we need have a greater understanding, appreciation, and maybe involvement in research and development work as well, and innovation in particular, and understand our own role in innovation. I think your comments there about research involving people right across the organisation and embedding research, I think, is something that will be useful for our own thinking about how we see things moving forward in our own role. So thank you for that, Vasant. Hussein, please.
Thank you, Chair. A number of points. Firstly, welcome, Hassan, to your role, and best wishes for this piece of work. It looks very interesting. Chair, with apologies for not doing this earlier, can I make a transparency statement? In that I'm a member of the Involve Grampian project, which is specifically looking to determine and eliminate the barriers to public involvement in research. Regarding the paper itself, very pleased to see the mention of AI. I think that is going to be one of the next big things, as you intimated, Hassan, and also with regard to the preventative agenda. I think AI could play a major part in that, and obviously that has related to the pressures that services are currently under. So it'll be interesting to see how we go with that. But my principal point was around the point that you raised quite rightly around increasing patient involvement. You've mentioned in the paper a trebling of input into clinical studies. And colleagues here will have heard before that I have very serious concerns that some of the most vulnerable in our community who are not tuned in to mainstream, particularly social media channels, may not be aware of these opportunities. So I'd be very interested in any narrative that you have in terms of how you will reach these more seldom heard or marginalized, or however you want to call it, groups and communities, such as those with sensory loss who may not be currently tuned in to the main ways of advertising research activities for the public.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you. Your transparency statement will be noted, but I'll pass to Vasant for to respond to you. Thank you.
One of the things being new I noticed is not far from where I am, in fact, next building, there is the corporate public patient and public involvement and engagement team sitting with communications, and we don't interact as much. I mean, we have our own PPI team. So my first thought in response to you is that we intend to work more collaboratively as one NHS Grampian. There will be learnings from us to them that we can share and vice versa. So I've asked for a meeting to explore how we can do that. Second problem is funding. Now, NRS, the CSO, provides a very small amount of funding for patient and public involvement. The and there is no funding at all for patient engagement. I'm very pleased to say that my team, in collaboration with Dr. Ashish Mukhopadhyay, did a very good patient engagement event in liver last financial year. And that was a success, and we are currently talking to Dr. Tara Furley to see we can do something again in the natal space this year. So we are operating on a shoestring budget from the monies we receive from the CSO. What we are also doing is therefore displacing some, we are trying to find other parts of money where we can do that, but I am acutely aware that doing that is also displacing money from some other equally worthwhile endeavor. So I feel that the best way we can address the point you are making is by collaborating and joining all the siloed resources that are there in NHS Grampian so that we can recognize some of the synergies. And if the existing budget is deemed inadequate, then to come specifically to the board or through Dr. Nick Fluck to see if some other funding can be made available to particularly attract the more vulnerable who are not engaged. And as you very correctly point out, if we are going to have 4 times more, 3 times more participants in the clinical trials, we also need a much more stronger PPI, and that budget should proportionately increase. And I'm hoping some new monies from an initiative called VPAG might help us with some additional funding specifically to reach out to those groups that you have just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasan. Nick, we're going to come in as well.
Yeah, I was just going to build a little bit on that. So that's definitely around, if you like, the direct engagement for lots of groups around research. Stealing a sort of term from our public health colleagues, there's also the making every opportunity count type of approach, which is that we clearly have a huge number of contacts with patients, circa 300,000 contacts in secondary care in the outpatient department. And so to create the profile that we're a research institution and that all patients know we are, and that we promote research growth in the areas where we know we have vulnerabilities in this region, and to support our researchers and clinicians to highlight that to clients and patients when they interact, is the other sort of main strand. Because certainly we've got areas where it is normal to be discussing research opportunities for patient groups, but we also have services where that's less usual, and we need to try and sort of expand that normalization, if you like, that we are a research and we are a teaching institution, and both of those are very valuable for patient care. That's very important, that both of those improve patient care. They also improve staff experience and staff recruitment and retention.
Thank you, Nick. Vasan, did you want to come back briefly before I...
Yes, I also want to add that there were some inconsistencies unearthed by my colleague Debbie Baldy in terms of the reimbursement for people who do PPI. Apparently, there are sort of 2 sets of documents there. So we are also, I've asked her help to find a common normalized version of the policy so that it's clear whether, and this refers to the question put to me, that if more vulnerable people want to participate, we have to have a much clearer stance on whether they will be reimbursed for their participation and time and petrol, things like that, parking and so on. It appears that we have somehow ended up with 2 different versions of documents on that, and position on whether they will get paid or not. And that's an urgent priority for me that I've requested Debbie's help to harmonize and sort out.
Thank you, Vasan. Susan also has indicated before I come back to Hussain.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. And Vasan, I think if you are developing the work plan, then there's potential opportunities to join in regarding the equity plan and the work around putting people first. like others have said, really welcome the document. I think, though, using terms like pathways implies that individuals are already in our system, and I think Hussein's comment was more around are we engaging with those who, for whatever reason, may not be using our service. So the prevention agenda, the work of the Health Determinants Research Collaborative that we've got in Aberdeen City, and the data that comes out of that, I think would be a really helpful connect to support the research strategy moving forward. And I think that your point about funding is absolutely key, because it's at clinical research trials which may detract from some of the population health research we want to do. So again, opportunities to work together to see how we can attract resource into the area to focus more upstream, plan for the future sets out. Thanks.
Thanks, Susan. You've encouraged collaboration already, Hussein, and making things happen in your question. Do you want to come back with anything?
Yeah, no, just to say, I very much welcome the response, Hassan, and from colleagues, and Chair. I hope it's not inappropriate for me to mention this, but I'm very happy if you want to reach out to me for any kind of first-hand experience or anything around, particularly the communication side of things for sensory loss and involvement. Very happy to be involved if that would be helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Hussein. Thank you. And I appreciate all the answers to that question as well. Thank you. Joyce, please.
Thanks. Hi, Vassan, and welcome to NHS Grampian, and thank you very much for a one-page clear strategy, which is something that I really enjoy reading, having read many long ones over the years. It's fantastic. I look forward to seeing the delivery plan, but even more I look forward to seeing the research and innovation brochure, because I think, having seen one in the past and being amazed about what we do up here, despite the fact I've lived here all my life, I hadn't heard about half of it. And I think it's something we need to do more in the Northeast, is to sing out about what we do really well, again, because we're often rather embarrassed about that. So I think we should have no qualms in telling the rest of the world how fantastic we are. And I look forward to reading that in the next couple of years. Thanks and welcome again.
Thank you, Joyce. And there's all kinds of reasons we need to do that, singing our praises of the good work that's going on as well, and highlighting good projects and good research and innovation as well. It's inspiration to people currently here. It's inspiration to those people who are not yet here, but we're hoping will come and join us. And it really helps our partners across the whole Grampian region as well appreciate what we're about and how they could maybe work with us as well on that wider collaboration journey. So lots of reasons for doing that. But Vassan, do you want to comment as well?
Just briefly to respond to Susan's point, absolutely the space of one page limited me from mentioning the Aberdeen Health Determinants Consortium, but we have mentioned the 3 health and social care partnerships, so it's kind of covered in that, but it's very much something I would like to pick up with you and Shantini to see how it can inform our direction and whether we can see demonstrable benefits to the population health from those interventions that we do and innovations that we do here as part of the strategy. With regard to Joyce's point, I think we are setting up a short life working group, and this is an NHS Grampian strategy, whereas the brochure will be jointly with our 2 academic partners. So we have roped in Professor Kay Cooper, who's a joint appointment with RGU, Ian from University of Aberdeen, and Debbie Baldy representing NHS Grampian. We will be putting together the brochure in a slightly different format to the last iteration. So the NRS has 26 or something defined specialities from anesthesia to trauma. So what we intend to do is it's more like a directory where we can have, in a more logical order, it's easy to find, and there is an index, and then there'll be not to make it boring, we'll have some photos, some labs, some achievements, some graphs, so that it's pleasant to read, but it's easy to find people in your domain, or if you want to know whether this person is there, then it's equally easy to do. And that is very much in the cards and should be available before March 2025. So
thank you very much, Vassan. Thank you. Joyce, happy? Yeah, thank you. Dennis, please.
Thank you very much. And like Joyce, just to welcome that one page. It really is good, and it's the brevity actually makes it an easier read. Picking up on one of the points that was just mentioned, I think to some extent maybe we don't celebrate a lot of the good work that we do. But I'll just refer members of the board to the annual report from the NHS charities, and I'm sure it will be shared at the AGM next week, or the week after, sorry. And I'm just saying that we can ensure that that report is shared widely with the board, because it actually does outline a lot of the good work that happens within Grampian. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that reminder, Dennis. Thanks very much for that. Thank you. Derek, please.
Hi, thanks, Alison. This might be a bit of an oblique question, but do you have any links to the new biohub that's just recently been built?
Thank you, Derek. Hassan?
Yes, it is mentioned in the strategy as Opportunity Northeast. So the biohub is just the sort of catchy facility name, but we are engaging with the parent organization, Opportunity Northeast, of which they have a number of hubs. The biohub they have 4 hubs for the 4 domains, so the biohub is automatically included in that. I also happen to be the biohub life sciences board members in addition to Andy Keane, so we have 2 touch points there where we very closely interact with them. Thank you.
Brilliant. That kind of collaboration is really important. Thank you. Happy, Derek?
Yes, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Thank you. I can't see any other indications for it. So again, I'll thank Vassan and Nick as well for the report there. Can we agree to endorse the research and development strategy and the delivery plan approach and timescale? Can we agree the recommendation, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, and that moves us on to item 10, the health inequities progress during 23-24 and a 5-year health equity plan 24 to 29. Pass to Susan for this, please. Susan?
Yeah, thanks very much, Alison. And you clearly at the start of the meeting highlighted the importance of this work. These 2 documents are setting out where we want to be, but also the progress we've made over the last year. And given my voice isn't holding out very well, I will hand over to Shantini to take us through them.
That's great. Thanks,
Susan.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Alison. So today we're presenting 3 documents. The first is our report on progress during 23-24 to address health inequities in Grampian and our anchor work, and that's to provide assurance to the board. Key areas of progress include the development of an integrated impact assessment tool to support our compliance with the Fairer Duty Scotland, strengthening our partnerships with the public and third sector organisations through our work with community planning partnerships and the North East Alliance, and progressing our ambitions as an anchor organisation. The progress in these areas during 23-24 and our learning has informed the development of the 5-year health equity plan, and these are presented as 2 documents, so a summary document in Appendix 2 and the fuller version in Appendix 3, and we're seeking endorsement of these plans from the board today. So the plan sets out our longer term ambition to reduce the gap in healthy life expectancy between the most and least vulnerable groups in our society. We use the King's Fund 4 pillars of population health as a framework for action to ensure that we have a balanced approach with actions across all 4 pillars, so that we recognise the impacts of wider determinants health and take action through our role as an anchor organisation. When we think about health behaviours and the overlap with health services, we look at how we make every opportunity count to discuss and support healthy behaviours, prevention and early intervention. So how do we support people to stay well, stop stop complications before they might occur, or stop problems from getting worse or new ones developing. We also look at how we work with communities and also strengthen place-based working. So recognizing the challenges that we face and, the whole challenge of reducing inequalities as well, the plan sets out 6 areas for action over the next 5 years to put in place the building blocks that will help us to make progress towards the longer term ambition of reducing health inequities. In addition, we've outlined 4 enabling actions around engagement, staff development, leadership and partnerships to support the delivery and implementation of this plan. There is a more granular action plan that underpins this, and these actions are included in our delivery plans along with a set of KPIs that are outcome focused, and this will help us to keep track against our progress. We're proposing that oversight for the implementation of this plan will be through the Population Health Portfolio Board, with an annual report to the Population Health Committee for assurance. I think that's all I was going to say to introduce the papers, but happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Shantini, and it's a really, really good set of papers here, setting a lot of important prevention work as well, and the wider picture of what we need to do and how we need to do it moving forward. So thank you for that. Any questions or comments about these papers, please? They are so thorough. There's silence here. I've got one myself, but I'll pass to Anne first. Then Anne.
Thank you. I couldn't get my hand up there. It was on page 187, Santini, on the workforce employability. I mean, you're doing so much good work there, and it says working collaborative with the Wood Foundation that you're doing this classroom in St Machars Academy. I would maybe like to know a little bit more about that. And then above that, you're saying with the Russell Foundation, you're providing classroom sessions with 8 city primary schools, and being from the Shire, I just wondered if there was anything like that going on within the Shire as well, because I think that's really very important. So those are my 2 questions, please. Thank you very much, Shantini.
Thank you. And before I bring Shantini in, I'll say Dennis has put his hand up, and Dennis has had a visit to the St Macha project. So I think that's probably what he wants us to mention.
Yeah, I did actually. It was absolutely amazing at St Macher, and it's a model that I would certainly hope that is going to be replicated in other parts of Grampian. But the enthusiasm of the young people taking part at St Machars was absolutely mind-blowing, to be honest, because a lot of them were talking not just about, going into, say, a clinical role. They were talking about the sort of AHP going into things like occupational health or even physio. There was even people talking about going into research, and I'm thinking the opportunities that classroom itself has opened up to that group of young people is absolutely amazing, and it's certainly something I hope that is going to be replicated throughout the rest of Grampian, because it is an opportunity for young people to get that first-hand experience of that wider health element of in terms of looking at the future careers. As I say, it's not just medical, it's that whole aspect of being part of that health system. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dennis. That was really helpful. I was going to come back to Shantini, but Elaine's put her hand up. Elaine, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, thanks very much, and really good to hear those comments around it. So this was very much built on work that's been done in America, that the team had gone over and visited, and I think very much, as you say, this is about a first step in testing something out, and the plan is to then expand that. But Councillor Bell, I'm happy to connect you with a team that have got more direct involvement, so we can give you a little bit more detail.
Thank you, that would be absolutely great.
Thank you very much. And it's good practice that we need to share, isn't it? So thank you for that. John, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment that we've seen the pressures in the system, and as Adam has shared at the committee when it came through, we are serious about getting prevention as part of the balance, but it is going to be quite tricky. But really welcome the work that the teams have done on this report, and in fact the next one that we're going to have, where we are trying to get a grip of prevention and get it embedded in the system. And it's an obvious point, but I think it's worth highlighting in the public session here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, John, as well. Thank you. Appreciate that. Colette.
Yeah, apologies if I've missed it. I mean, I think the papers are excellent, but I wonder, do you work with developing the young workforce, which is another organisation in the region, which is encouraging those interactions between young people in school and the workplace? So I didn't actually pick it up in any of the papers, but it's definitely worth engaging with them if you've
Yeah,
already.
I'm not sure to go to now, Elaine or Shantini. One of you would like to come in?
I think Tom might want to come in on this one. Is that right,
All
Tom?
right, Tom, that's
Yeah, I
fine.
can
And
come on
Tom,
the
yeah.
Shantini. Yeah, thanks, Colette. The NHS Grampian was, I think, the first health board in Scotland to achieve DYW accreditation back in, I think, 2021. So we do have an established relationship with DYW, and through the work we're doing on both the supporting the regional economic strategy and the local outcome improvement plan for Aberdeen City as well. There's plenty of interaction with Skills Development Scotland, DYW, and other partners in the employability space. So something that we will, I'll be working with Susan and June Brown on in the coming weeks, is just how we kind of join up the different strands of employability work. And I think Elaine will be plugged into that conversation as well as Jerry Laurie from my team, so we can ensure that, I guess, all of these strands knit together as effectively as possible. So yes, DYW are a partner that we've got a relationship with, and it's definitely something that we feel is really important to do beyond these kind of very, I guess, bespoke and welcome opportunities that the Wood Foundation and Russell Anderson Foundation have helped provide.
Thank you, and thank you, Tom. And Elaine, would you like to add?
Yeah, thanks very much, Tom. Yeah, just to say, obviously employability is one of our pillars around our anchor ambitions around our anchor organisation, and we're currently developing a detailed strategic work plan around our anchor ambition, so that the detail of the work that we're doing around employability will sit there as well.
Thank you. Colette, does that reassure you?
Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you, Colette. Thank you. Derek, please.
Thanks, Alison. Interesting to hear all this, and particularly Dennis talking about how well it was working at St Macar Academy. And just building on Anne's comments about Aberdeenshire, it seems to me that the hardest place for us to recruit and retain staff is in Murray. So just a wee shout for remembering Murray's part of Grampian region, or Grampian Health Board, and maybe we could get some good successes perhaps up in Murray to help out. Thank you.
Yeah, I see Tom's responded to that as well. Tom.
Yeah, I guess, Derek, just to go back to the How Are We Doing report, actually, and I think mentioned in the update on our progress of, I guess, appointing to new entrant apprenticeship roles this year, we noted that Murray College have identified and secured funding for 10 new apprenticeships, which is actually bucking the trend at the moment in terms of the availability of funding at a national level. That's been one of the big challenges in 23-24 through changes to the skills funding budgets, so both on a UK and a Scottish basis as well. So that's a good news story, and I guess we need to try and encourage more of the same if we can. But yeah, there's definitely some positive progress to report in Murray at the moment.
Maybe that's another lesson in singing good news stories as well and not keeping them quiet. There's maybe a message in that as well. So thank you for that, Tom. Are you happy, Derek?
Yeah, that's good to hear, Tom. But I do like the idea of getting into the classrooms and explaining to the kids that there are opportunities there if they want to take them up. I think that's really helpful if we can do that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you,
Sure.
Derek.
Thanks,
you.
Derek.
Joyce, please.
Thanks. I was thinking about our corporate parenting responsibilities and our work as an anchor organisation to ensure that we're working either through the Champions Boards or with our kid experienced young people, both to use their knowledge as voices of the seldom heard, but also to give them opportunities that they may not otherwise come across, because I think that's incumbent on us in our corporate parenting role in this field. Thanks.
That's a really important piece of comment as well, Joyce, linked on the work we had at the last board as well about our role individually and collectively as corporate parents as well, and making sure we're seeing opportunities along that range of activities as well. So thank you very much for that. Okay, just a final question on this from me. It's really good to have this paper in front of us and see all the work being done, both internally and with community partners as well. And that message about every opportunity counts, Shantini, I think is really important. Are we taking that philosophy as well when we're working with wider partners as well, maybe in the business world and the wider local economy as well, that we are thinking about making every opportunity count in how we are driving forward prevention and driving forward a fairer Scotland as well in terms of the initiatives we've got to follow as well. Are we working with businesses in the same kind of way is the question.
Yeah, so we're starting to explore all of that and do a bit more of that through our delivery plans and our healthy workplace work programme. We've certainly got opportunities with the Grampian Chamber of Commerce, etc., to look at how we engage with them, and also there's also, not to say guidance, but good practice around how we engage with businesses, etc. So, just in terms of how we work with them, recognizing that, sometimes some businesses may have businesses that are not so public health friendly, if I put it that way, but actually, that does not mean that we don't work with them, but, how do we work with them so that we're all playing a part around improving population health.
Thank you, Shantini. No, Susan's indicated as well. Susan?
Yeah, no, thanks. And Shantini, Alison was at the session yesterday, so was hearing about the work that Legal and General have done with Sir Michael Marmot, and certainly we've had conversations. So Alison, there's the work that we've been doing through our Healthy Working Lives programme. There was a clear focus in terms of living wage employers, but through community planning partnerships, and particularly our last conversation in Murray was around how do we take the learning from the work that Legal and General have done and enhance that further through the programme that Shantini has just outlined. So absolutely working as a team, but also through community planning.
Brilliant. I'm really glad to hear that. And I think that's really important to acknowledge the work of businesses in terms of their own employees as well, and how they've got a role in the prevention agenda as well, and how we can enhance that moving forward, and work in partnership as well across the whole of the Grampian area. Thank you. Joyce?
Yeah, coming back on that and the healthy working lives, I think it's really important that we bear in mind that over 95% of businesses have fewer than 5 staff. Therefore, we need some of our working related policies to be fit for small businesses to take part in, because I'm sure many of them would be very keen if it was simple, straightforward, and they saw the benefit for themselves and for the health, and therefore the lack of absence within their staff. So I think that's an area we need to be looking at in this as well. Thanks.
Yeah, so making sure anything we do going forward is fit for purpose as well and responsive to the community in which we're working. Thank you for that, Joyce. Again, that's a really helpful comment. Okay, I can't see any other indications on this paper. So can we agree the recommendations on this paper, please?
Agreed.
Thank you, and thank you for all the presenters as well on that one. Thank you. Okay, moving forward then to paper 11, putting people first. Susan, please.
Thank you very much. And again, I'll just hand directly over to Luann.
Thank you. Thank you, Luann.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Thanks, Chair. So really delighted to be here today to present to you the new Putting People First approach for endorsement by the board today. Want to start really by saying how grateful I am for the many people within NHS Grampian, including our board members, but also our colleagues in health and social care, community planning, third sector, and members of the public who have all helped shape the approach that you see before you today. And also to note that the creation of this has been a real team effort involving a really fantastic sounding board, including colleagues from Public Health, PIP, Corporate Comms, our Specialist Engagement Team, Wellbeing, Culture and Development, Quality Improvement, Staff Side, and our Child Health Commissioner. So whilst I'm presenting it, it's definitely a team effort. So just a few bits of background for particularly for new members of the board. NHS Grampian's plan for the future articulates an ambition to change the relationship with the public so we can create a more preventative system and develop sustainable models of care which are rooted in our communities. A focused piece of work which I have led has therefore been completed to help translate this ambition into a reality, and the output from this work is the Putting People First framework and summary document which is contained within the board papers today. So essentially, putting people first is an approach which shifts the concept of involving people from being something that's a project or a one-off event to how we involve people being something that all teams do as part of their business as usual processes. The essence of it is we focus on relationship building between people and having ongoing two-way dialogue with our service users, our staff and our communities. At the centre of it is a need to nurture relationships and valuing the expertise of people seeking care as much as those providing it. It's really important to stress that the approach outlined in the framework gives the direction of travel, but it's not set in stone, and we will continue to shape the approach and evolve it based on feedback, both from our colleagues, from our external partners and from our community members. And work is already underway to connect this approach with local area priorities via conversations with community planning partnerships and our health and social care partnerships in Grampian. So this is really about putting people first a reality in Grampian, and it's really important to stress this is not to be seen as a shiny new thing, but actually it's a long-term commitment to change. It's an 8-year plus journey to fundamentally change how we do things in Grampian in terms of how we listen to and involve our public. We're really mindful that this requires significant cultural change for the organisation and for the public, and also very mindful of the financial pressures facing the board. So the whole approach is underpinned by Bill Sharp's 3 Horizons model, providing a framework where over the next 2 years we focus on setting the foundations, we focus on developing the right culture, we carry out proof of concept work, we build evidence, and we learn as a whole system so that we can make the business case to spread the approach across the local system over the medium to long term. The foundation year's activities will be done by collaborating across existing resources. The pace and scale of what we will achieve is very much dependent on the capacity of teams being able to deliver the test of change areas, very much recognising that colleagues have multiple competing priorities as outlined in the delivery plan, which was at the board today. So the details of how we plan to take this forward in the next 2 years are covered in the framework, but I wanted to just give you a couple of examples of tangible things that we're taking forward. One area is that we want to test community-led health approaches, such as community appointment days. Community appointment days where teams of healthcare professionals join up with community services and other local support groups and peer networks to provide a one-stop shop for the public to deliver care closer to home. This has been used for MSK patients, for physio patients elsewhere in the UK, and they found this was well received by the public using the service, but also by staff, and it had the benefit of reducing waiting lists for care by more effectively organising care and support and wrapping that around people. So we're really keen to test that in Grampian. However, it's not about a lift and shift model of care, but one which needs to be adapted to fit local needs and to fit our different and unique local service structures. So we're currently in active discussions with a number of local services around testing this approach in Grampian, and we're hoping to deliver community appointment days in 3 localities over the coming months. The second kind of area that I think is that gives a real example is we want to improve how staff receive feedback, and we want to support staff to help them take appropriate action based on what they hear. And it was really interesting to hear the earlier conversation about care opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to help teams access resources and support which are actually already available, but make them more accessible so that we can help grow confidence in local teams and how to receive feedback well, how to be able to have that honest and two-way dialogue with the public, and really crucially to give teams confidence and permission to act on what they hear and make changes at a local level. We will do that by learning from good practice locally, because again, we're not starting from scratch with this, but also test new approaches in Grampian, such as rapid cycle feedback loops. This is an approach which has proven to improve patient and staff satisfaction and has allowed real-time feedback to be given to teams so they can make changes based on what really matters to people in their service. And in the board where this has been tested, this has led to reduced complaints as teams have been able to nip issues in the bud before they've become big problems. So a really great opportunity for us to try that differently, to try that new way of working in Grampian. And I would just say that the scale of this testing will be very much dependent on freeing up staff resource to test this locally. So that's something that we're actively exploring just now. So I hope that gives a helpful overview. Welcome any questions and comments, and really aware we have new members, so really happy to connect and have a session out with with this to provide some fuller background information. Thank you.
I think that last offer would be really helpful, Luann, to our new members of the board. So thank you for that offer as well. I'm sure something can be arranged on that. You'll have heard, obviously, the discussion we've had today. Putting people first has been mentioned on several times in the meeting before. So that shows the importance that the board is putting on this work as well. And it was good that the comments you made about the care opinion discussion that we'd had earlier. Thanks to Hussein's comments as well. So thank you for picking up on all that. Dennis, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I think it's more of a comment that I want to make, Chair, and that is how much I really welcome this. And again, I think Luann's delivery throughout was really saying it is something that is evolving. It's not set in stone. We're listening, we're engaging, and I think, you know, emphasising one or two examples in terms of things like the real-time feedback, and it's inclusive of our staff and our patients, and it's just, I really do want to welcome this approach. And you know, anything I think that we can do as a board collectively, because this is partnership, I would certainly welcome that as well. But it really is just to commend the work that is going on and the approach that has been taken. I think it is to be commended. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. And in particular, add to that the amount of conversations that have happened and engagement that's happened to get to this stage. It's been really good to see that embedded in the work as well. So thank you. Sandy, please.
Thanks, Alison. Luann, I think this is really exciting, hugely positive. I think the examples of some of the things that are being done to take it forward are great. And I do get a sense that it's been carefully planned and paced, which is wonderful. I suppose the only point I would make, and I made it at the seminar last month, and it's a kind of subtle thing. You referred to the How Are We Doing report and care opinion. For me, there was one little bit missing, and that was actually getting back to the public to say what's actually changed. Now, that may well happen automatically with some of the approaches, but I've had recent discussions with a number of people, including some colleagues in the third sector, who have said that NHS Grampian are really good at consulting and engaging, and there's been lots of opportunities to say things, but they've never heard anything back about what's happened as a result. And for them, on the face of it, some things have not changed at all. So it is that bit, and I think it was highlighted in the How Are We Doing report, is about not missing the opportunity to build trust in our services when there's areas of improvement that are identified, and we get back to the story or the persons who actually made it in the first place, just to reassure them. Obviously, I mean, I was speaking to someone in the third sector recently, and she recognised that where there are issues and concerns about processes or particular staff or whatever, there are confidentiality things and so forth. But generally, when people are asked about services, there needs to be built in to what we do with the public, and we get back to them and say, this is what we've taken on board, this is what's changed, and let us know how it's happening. So it's just absolutely making sure that that feedback loop is closed.
Thank you. Luann, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I just totally agree with Sandy. One of the themes that came through a lot of the conversations I had was about that sense of people being asked lots of questions and then not hearing what happens. So the idea of putting people first is for us to try and move away from one-off consultations and to create much more ongoing dialogues with communities so that we actually go back and say, that was a great idea you had and we've implemented it, or that was a great idea you had, we couldn't implement it, but we've done this, or, you know, so it's that honesty and transparency. So that's at the core of putting people first. And what's really good about the rapid cycle approach, which we're going to shamelessly pinch from another area, is that the rapid cycle feedback loops are that when the feedback comes back to teams, they also create a poster that goes up in the public area of the service so that it's really visible about what the feedback was, including, you know, from the other area that have done this, some difficult feedback that was quite critical, but they made it transparent, and public took a lot of comfort from that because there was that honesty and transparency. So Sandy, yeah, you're right. You're right. And just to say on the third sector, we have now we just had a development session of the new oversight group for putting people first, and our TSIs are invited to be in and around that. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Sandy, you content?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think coming back to a point you made earlier, Luan, it's about culture, isn't it? It's about building trust and confidence in the public, but it's trust and confidence in our staff to be able to do that feedback. And it'll all take time, but it feels as if this is the right way to go about it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you. Hussein.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Luan, for the presentation. And can I echo the Vice Chair's comments? I only have two questions, and I think that is, for such a big piece of work, that is a testament to everything that you've done to take the time to engage with people, engage with colleagues here on the board and elsewhere, and it has been an iterative process. And I can certainly say for myself, we have seen where there have been suggestions and changes made. They have come forward in the iterations of this work over time. So thank you for that. My first question, hopefully relatively straightforward, or perhaps not, is under point 2.3.3. I note that you mentioned that there will be an aim to use existing shared resources, but that there will be a financial spend as we go further down the horizon. I'm wondering if any analysis has been done in terms of a percentage of budget as to what you anticipate that being.
Luan, are you able to answer that at this stage?
My answer is no, that we haven't done that. I think what we're looking at is if we can demonstrate, for example, rapid cycle feedback loops, the evidence from elsewhere is that can have a real impact on the number of complaints that are received. So if we can demonstrate that through these tech proof of concept work, then that creates a business case for perhaps shifting resource into doing more of that rapid cycle work, which is more upstream than actually and nipping issues in the bud before they become big problems that require, you know, to go through the formal complaints process. So that's the kind of approach we're taking, but really making sure we build in robust evaluation and monitoring so that we can do that. But in terms of how you've asked the question, no. That's kind of not the approach. It's more about shifting staff resources and looking at models that are going to help us scale this up. Hussein, but that will come over time, I think.
Thank you, Luan. Hussein?
Yep, thank you very much for that. My second question is along the lines of Sandy's, but a slightly different nuance. To try and embed change in any organisation, particularly a large organisation such as NHS Grampian, takes time, and you know, with the best will in the world, moving all of the parts at the same time so that everybody gets the same experience at a given point in time has its challenges. Have you done any work on the communication mechanism which you're going to use so that everybody in Grampian, both at the point in which they access services and perhaps even more importantly, the point before they need to access services, knows what has changed, and almost creating like a change log or something, so that people can see how services are evolving and that they know the current state of play at any given time.
Thank you, Luan.
Thanks, Hussein. That's a great suggestion. One of the things we're looking at, so we're not, I don't think we're at that far down the line, Hussein, but we're really keen to make it as easy as possible for people to give feedback and to connect with NHS Grampian. So we're looking at how we develop the public involvement network and how we get that being a more diverse network of people, which is Louise Ballantyne, I think, who's on the call, is all around that, and also through corporate comms, looking at our messaging. Keen also to explore digital, but I'll maybe bring Louise in. Louise, do you want to add just what the plans are around the public involvement network?
Yeah, yeah, sure, of course. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, very much looking at how we can have a bit of a panel, a sort of public sounding board to inform what we're wanting to do around this, how we want to get the messaging out, how we want to really ensure that everybody knows what our intentions are and what we're trying to achieve. I think with a lot of communication, it's as many different ways as possible, trying to look at all the different opportunities we've got to be able to do that. As you say, digital, but I know in the past we've used fleet vans to get messages across. We've got our screens, digital screens in all the different areas. But again, you know, it's what are the opportunities when we are communicating with people before points of care, during and after, and just really making sure that everybody knows what the intention is. And that includes our staff as well, because obviously with a workforce of 17,000 people, you know, we do also need to make sure that our staff are fully on board with what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve and are part of that journey with us as well. So very much just looking at using all the networks and opportunities we've got. And as Luann said, you know, one of the things we're looking at changing our public involvement network traditionally has been more a group of people who've wanted to be actively involved with NHS Grampian. So that's limited the numbers to possibly between 40 and 60 individuals at a time. But we're going to move this to having those who are involved as more of a sort of volunteer sort of cohort of people who are actively involved, but then having our network as people who want to have a say, who want to hear what's going on, who wants to help us really influence what we're doing, and that will allow us to grow those numbers and figures greatly, and we can really look at how we can do that in the coming weeks and months. So hopefully that's answered and given a bit more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. And Susan's put her hand up as well. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll answer maybe the second question first and then go back to something Hussein said earlier. I think for me, there's something about absolutely testing at, frontline delivery level, the real-time feedback loops. But we won't be successful unless we take the learning from that and feed that into both our strategic planning and our annual delivery plan. So in the future, what I would hope we will be seeing as part of our routine way of doing business is we clearly articulate the things that we're doing differently in direct response at that organisational level. So I think Luann's touched on what would happen at a service level, but I think some of the bigger issues are, so how have we changed as a system in response to what we've heard? So that's probably, well, it is slightly further down the line because we need to develop those mechanisms where we take what we've been classifying as actionable insights from what we are hearing in the day in, day out interactions. I guess second bit that question I was going to answer in terms of return on investment, that there's been some work done in England, but it is a 3-year programme trying to quantify some of this savings. And again, we're happy to share that learning so that people can see the potential of this work. But just to say, it's very complicated. And does take quite significant investment to be able to quantify the resource shift in taking this approach.
Thank you, Susan. Hussein, are you content with the answers?
Yep, no, that's very helpful. And just to put on record again, very much welcome this, and we'll be keenly looking to see how this proceeds forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hussein. Thank you. Anne, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Luann. It's an excellent report, and you know how strongly I support this. But what I was interested in, as you know, is the appointment days. And you said you've identified 3 areas where you're going to try this out. Can you share with us the areas, or can we come back to that later? And be really interested to hear the feedback from that, because I think it's a great concept. So thank you, Luann, for the report and all your work.
Great, thank you, Anne. So when I'm saying 3 areas, what we want to do is make sure that we test this approach in our 3 local authority areas, so it doesn't just become something that City does, or so we're in dialogue with our health and social care colleagues about what's going to be the best area to test in the local areas. I don't want to set hairs running today about what's been decided, but I think we're quite close to identifying one for sure that will be getting going quite soon. But the potential of community appointment day approaches are not just for MSK physio, that they actually apply to lots and lots of different health conditions, from diabetes, chronic pain, mental health, that there's potential to use this approach and evolve it to suit our local area needs. So we're just starting with a few, and I think what's really important as well, and how we're going about this, is we're starting with a few, but we're making that very visible across the system. So I think today in the daily brief, we're going to have an open session where we invite people to come along and hear about community appointment day approaches, so that teams can start thinking about how this might apply in their area and how they might want to get involved on the journey, so that we're just starting the journey together and making it as accessible as possible for people. And so I hope that helps, but really happy to come back once we've got things firmed up and let you know what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. I was hoping it would be right across the 3 areas, because it's important to but I still that'll be very interesting, and it's going to be in different genres as well. It's not just going to be on one thing, it could be in anything to do with health.
Yeah.
I really think it's a very exciting way forward, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about it and taking part if we can. Thanks, Luann.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. Joyce, please.
Thanks, Luann, for a great piece of work, which has been so well engaged and co-produced and done in a very timely manner. I'm very supportive of it. And I was really interested yesterday at an IGB development session where we were looking at the place work that's been done in Fraserburgh, which has come up with the sort of need for the likes of community appointment days from the population there. So that fits nicely with the things that you found out in it as well. So I look forward to seeing how it progresses, and heartily support. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that advice. Thank you. John, please.
Yeah, thank you. Similar to everybody else, it's really good to see this moving from intent, and we've discussed that over a number of years as a board, and moving towards implementation and with these practical steps. And I think I'd be really welcome to see next steps, if you like, when you've had your conversations with partners and communities. And there'll be some aspects, I'm assuming, where we lead, others where we contribute, but so there's kind of joined up approach into communities. And certainly the place-based, Joyce mentioned that, what we were seeing this week, that's starting to get some traction. So seeing this knitted into that will bring to life what we've been talking about for quite a while. So commend executives and with Luann's contribution coming in, starting to make this real. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments as well, John. Really helpful. Thank you. And Colette, please.
Yeah, just very quickly. I said at the start of this meeting, just before the meeting started, I was curious to see how today would go, but there's so much good work going on, of which this is one part, Luann. So many congratulations. I'd welcome your offer to take you up on your offer to find out more. But a specific point, you talked about working with the TSIs in terms of community engagement. I think that's great, and obviously that's what you should do. But perhaps it might be worth directly approaching those local charities which are involved in health specifically, to kind of get that outreach into communities. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Colette. Luann, to come back to you. Any final comment on that or anything else?
Thanks. Really great to hear the comments and the support from the board. Colette, on your point, so the community appointment day approach, once we identify what is the area that we're focusing on, so what's the pathway or the disease condition, the first step then is to have a conversation with the relevant third sector and lived experience to co-produce it together. So we're just starting that stage now. The TSI involvement is much more about the overarching approach and making sure that they're connected in. So So, but you're absolutely right. And for me, it's going back to putting people first principles. Is we've involved people from the beginning of setting up a community appointment day. We don't sort of design it and then ask them what they think. So that's the approach that we're encouraging to be taken. And I suppose John's point as well is absolutely right, that the community appointment day approach is different in different areas, and it depends on what the condition is. So there's great energy and passion about this already within our health and social care colleagues. So it's just figuring out what is it that different teams need to support progress in this, and where are the areas where there's a bit more support needed, because perhaps they're based in secondary care and have less connects with communities. So we're figuring all that out. But a really key part is the sharing across the system, so we're making sure that things are not happening in silos, and that we're supporting really good evaluation and monitoring of how this is done, and doing it hand in hand with the equity lens, to make sure that anything we're delivering has a positive impact on reducing health inequalities and doesn't inadvertently do the opposite. So thank you, but really appreciate all your feedback.
Thank you very much, Luann, and thank you for all you're doing as well. Colette, is that legacy, or are you coming back? Or?
Legacy,
thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Luann, again for the paper. We have the recommendations to agree here. I assume you're agreeing them for everything everyone said so far. Can we agree the recommendations?
Yeah.
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Okay, and that leads us on to item 12, the Forum and Integration Joint Board reports for noting. First one, 12.1, the Area Clinical Forum. We haven't got Mark with us today. Can we just note the Area Clinical Reform report, please? Thank you. The Grampian Area Partnership Forum, 12.2. Stephen, would you like to say anything on this one?
Thanks, Alison. The report really speaks for itself, and I'm really encouraged the linkages to the report from the Area Partnership Forum, the Area Clinical Forum, and topics we have discussed at some length earlier today in this board meeting. So it's good to see the sort of threads linking through. Happy to take any comments or questions colleagues have got. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Any comments or questions for Stephen? No, so can we note that report as well, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then 12.3, the Integration Joint Board reports. I don't know if any of the chief officers want to say anything.
Sean Cody, Deputy Chief
Officer.
Sean,
and welcome Sean as well.
Hi,
welcome,
yes,
Sean.
Just put a few focus points there. So the GP visioning work, you'll see across all three papers, really good piece of work that has been signed off by the IGBs. The scoping and outputs has been signed off. So we're now move forward to that delivery phase with the creation of the board. So a really exciting piece of work. You've obviously looked at finance and some specific papers there, looking at primary care prescribing as well. Care at home provision versus demand. So quite a bit of information there around the improvement work there, but also identifying the challenge, but also the good work, particularly around inspection reports and feedback from our staff in our internal care at home, coming back with some real positive feedback in regards to their work and support, which is really positive. And daily discharge is clearly going right through here in improvement work. We're really looking forward to working with Angie Wood and the national team. We have met with Angie in the last couple of weeks, and clearly the feedback there is an absolutely a whole system approach that we need to take in regards to daily discharges, from admission avoidance to discharge, but also that bit in the middle around front door and hospital pathways. So a really exciting piece of work that we're keen to get involved in. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Sean, please? No, thank you then, Sean. Can we note those reports as well, please? Thank you. And then we've got the approved committee forum and IJB minutes for noting. So I'll just run through these, and please indicate or shout out if you've got a comment about any of them. 13.1, the NHS Grampian Charity Committee, 29th of January 24. Noted, thank you. The 13.2 Clinical Governance Committee, 13th of February 24. That one's noted as well, thank you. 13.3, the Performance Assurance Finance and Infrastructure Committee of the 28th of February 24. That one's noted as well then, thank you. 13.4, the Population Health Committee, 15th of March 24. That one's noted as well, thank you. 13.5, the Staff Governance Committee, 20th of February 24. That's noted as well, thank you. And then the forums, 13.6, the Area Clinical Forum, the 6th of March 24. That's noted as well. 13.7, the Grampian Area Partnership Forum, 2 of those, 21st of March and the 18th of April 24. Noted as well, thank you. And then the Integration Joint Board papers, 13.8, Aberdeen City IJB, 2 papers there, 6th of February and 26th of March 24. Can we note those, please? Thank you. 13.9, the Aberdeenshire IJB, 20th of March 24. Can we note that one, please? Thank you. And 13.10, the Murray IJB, 28th of March 24. Can we note that one, please?
Yeah. Noted.
Thank you. So that's all those papers noted. Any other business? Well, I have a piece of any other business to mention this point as well. And I think it's a mixture of recognition, sadness and wishing well, because I'd like to take a moment here to recognise Batty. As we all know, Batty, for today is Batty's final board meeting as he's stepping down from being a non-executive board member after almost 5 years with us. Batty graduated in Calcutta University. He trained in obstetrics and gynecology in the UK. He obtained his membership of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists in 91, his medical doctorate in 97 and fellowship of the Royal College in 2006. He undertook subspeciality training in reproductive medicine in Aberdeen and joined the University of Aberdeen as senior lecturer and professor in obstetrics and gynecology and became honorary consultant NHS Grampian in 2000. Batty left us for a short period to go to the University of Cardiff, but Aberdeen was too important to him and he returned, and we were really pleased to welcome him back. All that history that I've just recounted, what matters to us is, in particular, of course, is the wonderful work that Batty has done as a board member of NHS Grampian. His contribution to the board certainly goes beyond his professorship and head of school status for medicine, medical sciences, nutrition at the University of Aberdeen. And he's been a fantastic link, active link between our partners in academia and NHS Grampian. He's provided valued expert knowledge to this board and draw out the work he's done through NHS charities as well, and keeping an eye on the work that's supported there on research. And apart from all that, of course, he's been a friend and an ally to many colleagues, and we are really grateful for all the work he's done as well. I mean, I just want to add in a bit on there on the anti-racism strategy that's developed as well, and his support to that aspect of our work as well. Batty, we wish you very well in your new role for the University of Aberdeen, and we hope that this will allow you still to remember us and still contribute as a valued partner through various working groups that you're also a member of. Heartfelt thanks for everything you've done for us, and wishing you well in the future, Batty, as you move forward. Having said that, Batty, I can't see you on the screen now.
I am here. Thanks very much, Alison. And my aim was to be absolutely quiet today, but I'm very impressed by the level of detail that you seem to have gathered about my career. It all seems very distant to me. But thank you all. I've really enjoyed my time here. I've made lots of friends, and every moment has been absolutely riveting. So I'll miss that, but I'm not going very far, so certainly we'll be in touch. But thank you all for your generosity, for your support and your kindness.
Yeah, please keep in touch, Batty. We really value the work you've done and the friendship you've given as well. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I said it was tinged with sadness, but also wishing well for the future. So it's, yeah, Batty, we will miss you. Okay, I can't see any other business indicated there, but just to remind you that the date of the next meeting is the 12th of September 2024. So see many of you between now and then, but wish you well for the rest of the day. And we have got a closed board meeting scheduled for after this. Would anyone object if I moved that forward to start, just have a 10-minute break and then move forward at 13:10? Would that make more sense?
Good idea.
Okay, so we just have a 10-minute break, particularly for those doing the admin, to get sorted, and we will reconvene at 13:10. Those of us joining the closed board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.